Chapter 71. The counseling room was silent. Sylvia seemed to be crying but made no sound, and I just watched. Her teacup was left untouched, and the ice inside it had melted. The angle of the sunlight streaming in from the window gradually slanted. I don't like people who cry. I'm not crying. At that moment, Sylvia raised her head. Her eyes were moist, but as she said, she didn't cry. Your compliment moved me. Professor de Killeen is famous for not praising anyone. There was no change in her voice while making such excuses. I pulled out a handkerchief, but I was praised. Wipe it. She grabbed the handkerchief with both her hands. Her eyes were as clear as jewels that glistened in the water. Soon after that, our 20 minutes of consultation time was over. I'll go now. She glanced at the clock and stood up. She folded the handkerchief and put it in her pocket, and after greeting me politely, she left the counseling room. Watching her small back, I said, "Take today's advice into consideration." Sylvia stood tall. She turned around, nodded her head, and left. Goodbye, Tilda. Allen's voice came from outside. The office door opened and closed. Is she underestimating herself? Sylvia was a self-luminous wizard. She was enough of a genius to be qualified for a full-time professor position within the year, so it was clearly a waste of time for her to spend time under another professor. Be it me or any other professor in the world. Eferen was different, however. Since she fits perfectly with the magic I studied, she could grow further under me. Professor, just in time, Allen poked his head out of the door of the consulting room. Debutante Eferen will be coming in 10 minutes. Take a break for now? Eferen was always in a blue robe that symbolized her debutante rank, and had on a large backpack she bought for 30 elnis. For her, the most important criterion in any situation was cost-effectiveness, and from a distance, she looked like she was carrying a large brick, but it was so heavy today that she wobbled with every step she walked. A cat doll that hung under her bag tickled the robe's back. Gosh, my shoulder. When she got to the elevator, she laid it down on the floor to rest her body for a bit. Ding! However, the elevator quickly reached the first floor, and what she stumbled upon while picking up her bag startled her. Sylvia was there. There was nothing strange since she was a debutante too, but the problem was the atmosphere. Sylvia stared intently at her, her depressing anger piercing through her. Her narrowed gaze seemed to be screaming, "How dare you?" Eferen hesitated. "What? What's wrong with you this time?" Although she was waiting for that line inside, nepotism, Sylvia grumbled as she passed by. That's bothersome. What's with nepotism now? If you're going to say something, say it right. Otherwise, you're just leaving a bad feeling for the both of us. Eferen's fortune this week wasn't great at all, but why was she acting like that? Should I try a new tarot shop? Pressing the button to the 77th floor, Eferen looked in the mirror and said, "Arrogant Eferen," to relieve her discomfort. Ding, she arrived at de Killeen's office. Debutante Eferen, come on in, Tilda. Yeah. She followed Assistant Professor Allen into the counseling room. However, Head Professor de Killeen was standing upright as if meditating with his eyes closed. Eferen just stared at him blankly. He was too far and seemingly covered in a thorny aura for her to wake him up. "Professor, Debutante Eferen is here." The assistant professor's words made him open his eyes. De Killeen looked up at Eferen and gestured. "Sit down." "Okay." Eferen opened her backpack as soon as she sat down, then she spoke bravely. "I know today's career counseling, but I would like to inquire about the Solda promotion exam." "Solda?" "Yes." She pulled out a bunch of papers from inside her bag. She, like Sylvia, made several preparations to take the Solda exam as soon as the first semester was over. These are the documents that prove that I have participated diligently in the department's classes. In fact, this was already her 8th attempt. She initially went to the young professors, but their letters of recommendation were of little effect, and tenured professors like Relin despised her. She only heard hurtful words and was kicked out. Here, my club also revealed the foreshadowing of the attack on the Baron of the Ashes. Along de Killeen looked at her indifferently. Eferen was as energetic as a child in an oratory contest. Since her opponent was more difficult to deal with than any other professor, she thrilled herself up as her own way of getting rid of her anxiety and tension. My grades are all a plus based on the midterm exam, But if I keep it until the end of the final exam. As she spoke, she constantly pulled out papers. The materials prepared by Ephraim piled up on his desk one by one, forming a mountain. Also in the tower, enough. De Culleen, who had been listening quietly, interrupted her. Ephraim sat tall in her seat. Take them with you. Ephraim's expression hardened. She bit her lower lip slightly, but she spoke again without showing it. I also checked all the provisions of the Solda test. If you read it. I don't need to. Ah, the breath that flowed from Ephraim's teeth was a bit rough, but it wasn't surprising. She kind of expected it. Yes. Ephraim put the papers back into her backpack. As he watched her, De Culleen spoke. If you keep your grades this high throughout the final exams, you'll be given the Solda qualification. What? Ephraim's eyes widened. Her face looked as innocent as a child's. If you're in third overall place, there's no reason why I shouldn't give you a professor recommendation. The meaning of those words was clear. If you do well at the finals, I'll be the one recommending you to take the Solda exam myself. Oh, okay, thank you. I'll try my best. Ephraim scratched the back of her neck. If I pass the exam, I'll apply under you. Perhaps out of embarrassment, those words then poured out of her lips. De Culleen answered indifferently. I won't stop you. The suffering is yours to take. Got it. Ephraim smiled inwardly. You'd be getting a tiger cub. Will you be able to stay calm like that in a year or two? I will soon overtake you. Ephraim recognized De Culleen as a genius of hard work that day on the Isle of Wizards' Wealth, but her defiant demeanor was still there. Then I'll be going. As she was about to leave, wait. Her whole body stiffened at his words, feeling the pressure brought forth by De Culleen's natural characteristics. At times like this, she often wondered if he found out what she was thinking or if she had done something wrong. You haven't used the check yet. Startled, she creaked her head over her shoulder and asked, If I don't use it, will you take it away? No, it wasn't something I gave. It was a reward I gave on behalf of the tower. Oh, actually, I don't have something I want yet, so I want to use it when I really need it in the future. Like insurance. De Culleen nodded silently, meaning she was free to leave, and Ephraim left the counselor's office after her hesitant nod. Take care, debutante Ephraim Tilda, ah yes. You too, assistant professor. She said goodbye to Alan, exited the room, and closed the office door behind her. After that, she leaned against the wall for a moment, letting out a deep sigh. Sigh, it's really weird. The air in De Culleen's vicinity itself felt different. Just by being in his presence, a unique pressure seemed to weigh down on her shoulders. 1 minute with him felt like 10 minutes, and the mental and physical fatigue she gained was just in an entirely different league. Even now, her heart refused to stop beating so profusely. I don't even know what he's thinking. He obviously extorted her father's achievements, and he committed suicide as a disgraced wizard with the title 30-year-old Solda. During their retreat at Hadecane, she asked the culprit about it directly, but De Culleen neither confirmed nor denied anything. It would have been cool if he had firmly denied it. Is it all up to me? Still, De Culleen, at least in this tower, was the most indifferent professor when it came to her identity. He was fair even to her despite declaring that she would reveal everything. Let's just study. Ephraim put the brick bag back on and walked. Leaders, politicians, and entrepreneurs from different countries on the continent often said that there were no dreams in the ashes, no hope, no life. All that remained in there were ashes. Arlos knew that was bullshit. There was life in the ashes. There was hope. It wasn't a good environment to raise children, but there were kids there anyway. But that didn't mean she had any fondness for it. She had huge ambitions. However, success was a story of a distant dimension for an orphan from a remote kingdom like her. That was a barrier that Arlos knew she couldn't overcome, so she chose the next best option she had. The ashes. Since she was the continent's unofficial top puppeteer, she managed to scatter her puppets all over the empire. Her dolls were connected to her soul and acted as a living person, but none of them resembled Arlos's actual appearance. Modeling them after her would only bring unnecessary complications. Her beauty would only cause insignificant flies to tangle up with her plans, after all. Welcome. However, today, Arlos visited the Black Klein Hotel in the flesh after so long. The Black Klein was a recently built prime-class hotel. Its accommodation was one of the most expensive out there, but it was more than satisfying to Arloes, who had many errors in her daily life. I made a reservation. Yes, Solette. I checked it. The hotel staff treated their guests like aristocrats, which was what Arloes was especially fond of. Even if people flirted with her, she found it difficult for her to be treated like a noble unless she actually was one. In that sense, Arloes was surprisingly the type that cared about pretentiousness. She just didn't show it that much. This is the key to the 37th floor. Arloes reserved that floor under her pseudonym, Solette. The top floor of Black Klein was the 50th floor, a penthouse, but she hadn't yet built up enough mileage and social reputation to reach that high. I would like foie gras with laparine for dinner. Yes. Arloes took the key, went into the grandiose elevator, and stared at herself wearing a suit. Except for its slim waist, it was the perfect menswear. Arloes habitually fiddled with her necklace. She didn't know when or how she got it, but it was a symbol of luck for her. Soon after arriving at her room, she sat down in a chair and pulled out a tablet. It was a device similar to the wizard board of the university tower. It allowed communications with the altar, which was currently in a cooperative relationship with them. Dechilline interpreted the runes but destroyed the summary. What we want is in those runes. God's language is now in Dechilline's head. Dechilline's abduction is required. The unit price is set at 30 million elnes. As soon as the altar members heard the news from the Isle of Wizards' Wealth that Dechilline interpreted the runes, they released a prize of 30 million elnes for anyone who could capture him. He knew me. Arloes thought of him, and the time he called her Arloes. Up until now, he's been an ordinary, low-key villain. Past Dechilline and present Dechilline were markedly different, at least according to the information she obtained from the office she established and operated. It's worth noting, considering he knows me. Whatever it might be, Dechilline was a threatening enough figure, but he wasn't the reason Arloes visited the Empire today. She had no intention of participating in the abduction of Dechilline yet. After all, she only participated in fights where her victory was a certainty. Throwing the tablet away, she looked at a brochure. Harwich Artifact Auction, Homeren's Fragmented Ring. She found a treasure she liked after a long time. Now that she had earned enough money for such treasures, it was time to relax and invest in herself. After I had finished all the consultation appointments, I looked at the system store while still in my office. LV. 2 System Store Black Square 1. Adventurer's Wind, Black Square. Mana Quality Enhancement, Stage 2. The character's natural mana is enhanced qualitatively. A slight increase in mana output and efficiency. 20 KRW. I don't have to wait anymore. Now that I had accumulated enough money through my recent efforts, the time had finally come to claim my rewards. It was better to do it now. I had many schedules this week, so I didn't know when I would have time again. Making up my mind, I pressed Mana Quality Enhancement, Stage 2, in the air. Mana Quality Enhancement, Stage 2, has been applied. The mana you hold has become purer. After reading the system messages, I waited for the pain to come. The first stage was a moderately intense feeling, so I thought it would feel like that again. Not long after, I felt as if my ribs were being torn as crimson blood spilled out of my mouth. Gasping for breath, I clutched my chest. My heart pounded. Ugh. Fortunately, the pain itself was fleeting, but the mess on my desk bothered me. I collected all the drops of blood with psychokinesis and burned it at a high temperature. Knock, knock. Professor Luina is. I heard Alan's voice. Come in. Yes, the door opened and Luina entered. Yes, boss, I'm. After taking a few steps, she stopped abruptly and began sniffing the air. What's going on? Sniff, sniff. Sniff. Did you become a dog while you were away? No, dog, you're crossing the line, boss. Luina approached me and she flinched again. This time she glanced at my lips. I grabbed a handkerchief and wiped my lips, only now noticing that a little blood came out. My brows twitched instinctively. How could I present such a dirty face? Say what you're here for already. H here, boss. Luina walked over and handed me the papers she carried. This is the research I'm going to start and my plans for it. She handed over what would be my first job as the Planning and Financial Coordination Office head. I took the document. I'll go now. Thank you. However, Luna didn't say anything about her project to favor it and ran outside before I could say anything. Did she think that it'd obviously be accepted? It wasn't too bad that she accepted Eucline's protection. I looked at Luna's plan. My man of great wealth ability made me feel like she didn't lack in any way, so I decided there was nothing more for me to look at. I stamped authorized on it. Bang! Wednesday at 3 p.m., Dequillien's last class before the final exam. All right, please stand in line. Assistant Professor Allen first divided the 150 debutantes into categories. Harmony class with talent was the smallest with 11 people, and support class had the most with 35 people. Attention! Today's classroom was an open field. Professor Dequillien spoke in front of them all. This is the last class of the semester, so there is nothing more for me to teach. Today, we will examine your series of applications and point out your shortcomings. Come forward in groups of 5. The first squad was from the support class. Show the magic you're most confident of. Dequillien watched the magic used by the support debutantes one by one. Eurozen. I see you chose wind armor. You cast it well. Green earth. That's useful for subduing monsters within its effective area. Dequillien knew all the magic they conjured. It could be because he's a professor, one would think. Crystallization is largely classified as a secondary type, but the magic circle it uses also has some harmonic characteristics. You overlooked that. That's the reason why you keep failing. Oh, okay. Dequillien also analyzed the magic that failed to manifest and provided advice to ensure they'd be able to cast it correctly. Let me do it again. After accepting and internalizing the professor's words, Debutante Ferret succeeded in his next attempt. Good. Now the next 5. Dequillien was able to observe other people's magic circles through vision, and his head was filled with half a year's worth of magic circles that he learned through understanding. His magical knowledge was shallow at first, but it had now become as vast as the Great Sea. Of course, that knowledge was different from what he had actually memorized. He couldn't use all the magic that he knew, after all. Memorization was a kind of habituation in which one's body remembered magic and expressed it in a martial arts style. Dequillien implemented all other magic, except for psychokinesis, which was directly engraved on his body based on theory alone. Hence, his magic and knowledge were consistent with each other, leaving no room for oscillation. That gave him a firm foundation suitable for teaching someone. To debutantes unaware of those facts, Dequillien was a magical encyclopedia. His eyes, which were close to divine, were simply admirable. Epheren. Yes, Eheren's turn finally came. Here I come. She prepared the most complex magic she could present. Its series mixed, twisted, and hid circuits all over its area. It will not be easy even for you, Dequillien, to understand the true nature of this magic just by looking at it. Dequillien looked at Epheren's magic circle for 30 seconds. Soprano. It's of no use to you, but it definitely has a high level of difficulty. Huh. That special magic, Soprano, mixed the pure elements wind and sound. Its effect was very subtle. It just changed all the sounds in the area to the high pitch, hence its name. It was a kind of stepping stone towards silence. Wizards often learned magic that belonged to the same category to get used to its structure first. Soprano was unnecessarily complicated because it interfered with the sound of space. It wasn't even famous. The other debutantes' reactions were mainly along the lines of, "What is a soprano? Isn't that a vocal? Are you fooling around right now, Epheren, or are you showing off? 1 penalty point. No, give me another chance. Please don't give me a penalty point." Epheren hastily conjured appropriate magic. Her feet trembled, and the ground she stood on transformed into a crater. Dequillien nodded. Wrath of the Mountains. It's certainly difficult to cast, but its scale is too small. Yes, in fact, that bothered me a bit too. You can easily increase its scale by increasing the size of its magic circle. More details will be provided later. Oh, okay, then will there be no penalty points anymore? No. Dequillien ignored Epheren and took a step aside. Next. Next up was Sylvia, who had been staring at Ephraim for quite some time now. She belatedly corrected her posture when Deculine approached her. "Sylvia?" "Yes." She closed her eyes and unleashed her magic. Chapter 72. Sylvia manifested a magic circle. The mana it contained slowly took its form as the entire class watched her in thrill and excitement. She was a potential candidate to be the next Archmage, causing her fellow debutantes to anticipate what magic she'd be conjuring. Weaving her own magic with her immense mana, she far surpassed any professor at that moment. Huh! However, Ephraim, watching her write, slowly began to grow suspicious of her actions. She could tell Sylvia's magic circle was so misaligned she couldn't help but notice it. Woo-oong. A huge gust of wind blew up as her mana condensed and disrupted space itself, seemingly charging up for an explosion. It swept away the surrounding pavement and even caused the hems of Ephraim's robe to be sucked in. Deculine looked at Sylvia silently while her magic repeated amplification due to its inability to manifest as a phenomenon. Crack! The magical sphere scorched the ground, its cohesion and contraction causing it to burn densely. At this rate, he knew it would eventually end in a catastrophic explosion. Hence, he broke her magic circuit. Her magic disintegrated as the class sank in silence, Sylvia's failure turning them speechless. I failed. Although she should be the most affected by it, she remained indifferent. However, as she looked up at Deculine, she couldn't stop herself from wavering a little. "I am still lacking." His gaze on her felt gelid. Looking down at her, he shook his head. Sylvia bit her lip. "It's unfair." "What is?" "You say that I'm talented but refuse to teach me, then proceed to teach the ones who are flawed and lacking." Several debutantes' shoulders shook, seemingly out of guilt. "It doesn't make sense. You should be watching those who excel even closer and more intently." "He is my muse." "It's fortunate that I met him. Considering I'm more suited to his teachings than anyone else in this tower, she had faith that she would grow further under him." Deculine looked at Sylvia, who refused to avert her eyes from him in turn. "No, it is fair." "It's unfair." "That would be what your talent is." For a moment, the air around them grew heavier and thicker. Isn't a genius's suffering also superior to the hardships of someone mediocre? Kim Woojin once heard the struggles of a genius who went to study abroad as a scholar. Despite being more talented than him, he complained that he wasn't drawing as well as he used to and that the people's standards for him were too high. That's not it. You, who does not need instruction, do not know the struggles of those who cannot grow without it. He never cared even a bit about the hardships and what kind of slump the geniuses went through. After all, those who progressed based on hard work and efforts alone found whining geniuses detestable. Deculine was most likely of the same thought. "You're not in the academy anymore, Sylvia. Your complaints won't be accepted here. If you can't stand it, feel free to give up." Sylvia looked down. "If you don't want to give up, then prove yourself worthy of your talents." Every word he spoke were like blades, each and every last one of them piercing through her chest and making her feel like he was crushing her heart down to its smallest fragment. The magical agglomeration you just intentionally caused was dangerous. If it exploded, there would have been casualties. You get 10 penalty points. No ordinary professor could give that many in one go. Wow, 10 points, that's crazy. The eyes of everyone in the classroom widened in astonishment, and Ephraim even muttered involuntarily. At that moment, Deculine's gaze met hers. Ephraim, using slang in class. "Oh no, wait. No. Added 1 penalty point. Nuuwuo. At the end of University Towers semester, both the undergraduate students and faculty members became busy. It was around that time that professors started a project or evaluated performance. For the students, that served as their window of tests, finals, or promotion. Or write a thesis due to the sudden increase in scouting from territories, countries, companies, and adventurers. In the winter, there were many missions such as monster wave support and firepower support. Hence, the summer at the end of the first semester was the most important period in a wizard's career. 117 people asked for counseling with you this week alone, Professor Luina," said Jenkin. Luina's assistant professor and direct student who was with her at the kingdom's university tower. 117 people. That was 39 times the number of people that approached Deculine. Thanks to the fame she had built up in the kingdom and the rumors about her personality in the tower, wizards continued to ask for advice from her. Professor? However, Luina herself was dazed. She kept thinking about Deculine, whom she met just now. It was blood. Huh. Deculine's lips were stained with blood, and the air in his office was filled with its scent at a level that was impossible to achieve with just a small wound or a nosebleed. After all, it had to be hemoptysis. Luina leaned back against the chair, letting out a sigh. After discovering those pieces of evidence, she was almost convinced Deculine would die after 5 years. Professor? Huh, oh yeah, 117 people. I can take 10 people a day. Yes, also the authorized documents have been delivered. Already, it's only been 3 hours. Luina's eyes widened in surprise. On the papers Jenkin handed over was the executive director's authorized stamp. She was expecting it'd take at least 1 to 2 weeks for it to be approved. Luina smiled bitterly and nodded. Things are working out well. Now that I have the budget, it's time to bring all the old guys over. Luina officially handed her resignation letter to the Kingdom Tower. Although her most trusted student inherited her head professor position, many students still wanted to follow her. Yes, I've already contacted them. Okay. You may go. After sending Jenkin away, Luina looked around her office quietly. It's spacious. Her office on the 47th floor of the Imperial University Tower as a professor was about the same size as her office at the Kingdom as the head professor. That was how huge the difference between the Kingdom and the Empire was. PFFF. 5 years. You should think of it as your karma. She muttered a bit cynically, but there was certain bitterness in her tone. She let out a deep sigh. Her vengeance towards Deculine was definitely a passion that burned her insides. It was what fueled her main objectives in life. She didn't think he would meet his end in such a state. My life and your life are a mess. She had mixed feelings about it in many ways. All classes finished at 6 p.m. After reaching a certain amount of penalty points, Ephraim was dragged to the University Tower Administration office. Ha ha ha, what? Professor Deculine gave you your final penalty point? Ha ha ha, I knew it. I knew the day would come when he would no longer be able to stand your audacity. Relin, the professor who claimed to be the tower's leader, laughed hysterically as he handed cleaning equipment over to her, including a cleaning brush, a big mop, rubber gloves, detergent, and so on. Ephra put them all in a wheeled basket. Get out, you scum. Today you'll be cleaning the 3rd and 4th floors, ha-ha-ha. Okay. Ha-ha-ha, he-he, ha-ha, ha-ha-ha, ha-ha-ha, ha-ha-ha. He laughed like an actual insane person. Did the wind blow in his lungs? Pouting, Ephraim exited the room. Phew, it didn't matter if she used magic for cleaning. However, the number of toilets was a problem. There were almost 10 or more toilets on most tower floors, but there were as many as 20 each on the 3rd and 4th floors. I knew my fortune this week was bad. I have to change tarot shops. Ephraim started cleaning the bathroom from the 3rd floor. She initially tried to speed up her work by using psychokinesis to handle the cleaning equipment, but that proved difficult. Hence, she mixed detergent in the spray caused by the water snake instead. She carefully cleaned the toilets and tiles, as poop would splash out if she used too much force or fired her magic in certain angles. Ugh. After cleaning the first comfort room, she finally came out of it. Ah. The moment she did, she saw Deculine in front of the professor's elevator on the 3rd floor. As always, he was dressed perfectly. When he saw Ephraim, he frowned, seemingly finding her dirty, which almost made her cry. It's because of you? You should have only given me 1 point. Don't you think 10 penalty points at once were too much, Professor? They said it's the first time it happened in 10 years. You only got 2 points. Deculine's eyes seemed to be disappointed. She couldn't even do such basic math. That caused her expression to resemble that of an angry bulldog. Not me, I meant Sylvia. He stared at her. Ephraim. Yes, you should worry about yourself. Sylvia is the only debutante who truly understands me. She's not someone you have to worry about, he said, his voice seemingly finding her worries ridiculous. Eferen grew silent. She had no rebuttal against his words. Sylvia was indeed the only one who got a perfect score on the midterm exam. Ding, the elevator arrived. As D'Killeen got in it, Eferen muttered, "I tried really hard not to get those 2 points." Eferen started cleaning the comfort rooms again. From the employee restroom on the 3rd floor, the restaurant restroom, the public restroom, and the disabled exclusive restroom, she went up to the wizard restroom on the 4th floor. Deaded tilde D'Killeen, you fool tilde you tilde fool tilde the world's tilde biggest tilde asshole tilde. She sang, treating those words as her work song. Tack, the wheel of her bucket got caught in someone's heel. Raising her gaze to look at who it was, immediately identifying the person, Sylvia, Eferen turned to her right and tried to pass by her, but Sylvia blocked her way. She turned to her left afterward, but she blocked her path again. Eferen's eyes narrowed. "What are you doing? Get out of my way, I'll push you into the bucket." "Arrogant Eferen, what are you humming?" I could call it a work song. She noticed Sylvia's expression a bit too late, which seemed a bit angry. Unusual dark circles also formed around her eyes. "You don't know how blessed you are because of your stupidity, arrogant Eferen. Girl, I don't understand what you're saying." Nepotism. "You're so stupid you don't even know how to use nepotism." From 6 to 9 today, Sylvia unconsciously imagined to herself, while receiving the Rodrin's personality training, which was her punishment for her previous behavior. It was a terrifying future wherein Eferen overtook her as D'Killeen's disciple. Arrogant nepotism. "Phew, I don't know what's with you and nepotism today, but I just met Professor D'Killeen, you know." No matter how hard she thought about it, Sylvia just couldn't understand why the hell he chose her. "Do you like the professor?" Eferen asked. "You're nuts," Sylvia unconsciously said. Immediately after, her face heated up. Shocked by the words that blurted out of herself, she covered her mouth with both hands. "PFFFT, I guess you do?" No, I don't. He's my muse." "I don't know what that is, but do you want to know what the professor said about you?" "About me?" "Yeah," he said. Flicking her chin, she recalled D'Killeen's words while Sylvia focused her attention on her lips, pretending to be uninterested. After a short while, she continued softly. "D'Killeen said the only one who understands him is you." Sylvia let out a choking sound, followed by indefinite silence. "I don't know why you made such a strange rebellion today, but doesn't that mean that he trusts you that much?" She still didn't say anything and had become as stiff as a stone statue. "Hello?" Eferen tapped her. Her lips trembled at that point, but words remained trapped within them. "I gave you good information, so will you buy dinner tonight?" she cautiously asked. Sylvia only rolled her eyes and glared at her, licking her lips. She continued, "If you do, then I'll pretend I didn't hear the words that just came out of your mouth." Surprised, Sylvia finally nodded. Her melancholic mood had disappeared. Pig Flower, a famous restaurant on the continent. Eferen arrived at her regular restaurant with Sylvia. "Come on, Eferen. Here you go." The shopkeeper put the Rohawk roast set on their table. Sizzle, sizzle. Eferen looked at the beautiful figure on the stone slab, already drooling. Or was she salivating anyway? "You brought a friend with you today." "I'm not her friend." Sylvia corrected him with a narrow gaze. The old man shrugged. "Really? What are you two, then?" Sylvia pondered about it for a moment, then pointed her finger at Eferen. "She's my slave." Her words startled Eferen. "What? Why are you talking nonsense? It's been 300 years since slavery was abolished." "Ha ha ha, you are a delightful noblewoman. Enjoy it. Eferen, you too." The old man smiled and left. Eferen immediately put on gloves and grabbed the Rohawk's bones. "You can grab a bone like this and eat it. It's very tasty, you know. You should eat it too." Sylvia looked at her as if finding the notion ridiculous. Disliking her method of eating, she looked for a knife and fork. But perhaps because of her company, who ate like a caveman, there were no cutleries at all. She made a set herself using magic. Yum, 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 yum. As she savored her meal, Eferen looked at Sylvia, noticing that she decided to eat the meat using a fork and knife. She laughed softly. "What do you think? Delicious, right?" Sylvia replied dryly. "I can't taste any food." Eferen stopped moving abruptly, her lips glistening due to the meat oil on them. "Really?" "Yeah." But you seem to enjoy the fish I cooked back then. I was hungry then. I am not hungry now, she nodded. Recalling her memories, she realized Sylvia didn't say delicious at the time. Since you were born. No, I lost it while growing up. Oh, I'm sorry. Efren shut her mouth and returned her focus on the dish before her. After a short while, however, she glanced at Sylvia, who only ate in small bites. Since she was eating even a rohawk like that, she thought it was most likely true that she didn't have any sense of taste. Still, this is very good for nutrition and stamina. You can call it a complete food. While you're eating it, you'll feel your mana rising. Sylvia didn't respond. Efren laughed bitterly at her silence. 10 minutes later. Efren stared blankly at Sylvia's plate, having already finished hers so cleanly only bones were left in the aftermath. On the other hand, Sylvia still had a lot of leftovers. Noticing her behavior, she said, "You can have it." Huh, oh, it's fine, don't worry, eat. Learned that refusing twice wasn't polite, she conceded. Okay, thanks. As she ate her leftover meat, Efren thought their first meeting at the tower was the worst, just like their family's relationship with each other, but Sylvia didn't seem all that bad. After all, as promised, she paid for their dinner. Tick-tock, Sylvia's evenings were usually busy due to her magic review sessions, but tonight their mansion was filled with only the sound of the clock's hands moving. Only Sylvia understands me. She recalled Efren's words in Deculine's voice. Understands me. It was a shame she couldn't hear it in person, but imagining it was still enough for her, her heart, which felt like a needle had stabbed it, was healed in an instant, and her suffocated mind was now at ease. Only Sylvia. However, while she smiled silently in happiness, she eventually became sad. He let her go because she understood him, and because he wanted for them to meet again in a higher place. Thus, Sylvia took out the gift from Deculine, then put the handkerchief he had given her on its back. "This is your cloak." She then plopped down on her bed, the so-called cloaked in her arms. It was a quiet night in the moonlight. The cute doll was tucked with her in her blanket, and her familiar was by the side of her bed. At that moment, she thought there was nothing for her to be afraid of no matter where she went. It was as if the world itself was protecting her. Only Sylvia understands me. In her sense of fullness, she once again recalled his voice. Sylvia slept peacefully. Asterisk, something like that happened. Deculine, that damn bastard. Glython of Iliade received an official notice from the university tower in the Lord's office, which stated that Deculine had imposed 10 penalty points on Sylvia. "Shall we make an official complaint?" his butler asked. Glython shook his head. "No. 10 points. Neither Glython himself, his father, his grandfather, his great-grandfather, nor anyone in Iliade had ever experienced such a disgrace in the tower. It's okay. If he did it 20 years ago, he would have accepted it as a declaration of war, but now it didn't matter. He didn't care. Leave it. Glython even laughed. He didn't even think of it as a humiliation. After all, he knew that the emotions piling up in his daughter one after another would one day become firewood that would ignite the dazzling flames of Iliade. If the child did something wrong, shouldn't she receive a penalty? Glython burned the official letter of the tower. What used to be a document quickly turned to ashes that scattered away with the wind. Chapter 73, Understanding Status, Beginner/Intermediate Psychokinesis, 17% progress, Beginner Fire Control, Beginner Earth Control. Metal Enhancement, 67% progress. Late Dawn. I checked the Psychokinesis magic stem by using vision on myself. Although the quality of my mana had been upgraded, it wasn't easy to apply and control my amplified power instantly. I slowly closed my eyes and activated my psychokinesis. A single piece of wood steel hovered up. Today's purpose was to manipulate electromagnetic waves by using metallic resonance with psychokinesis. Previously, my mana rating was so low that I couldn't even try it, but I was now powerful enough to challenge it, considering it had gone up to level 4. Wu-Wang. The most basic use of this advanced technique was transparency, which blurred the shape of wood steel by dispersing and refracting visible light through metallic resonance. Thump. The principle itself was simple, but the vibrating wood steel sword, smashing against the ceiling before falling and hitting my shoulder. That was the 38th failure. It's hard. I sat on the chair, rubbing my aching shoulders. I hadn't succeeded once yet, but my body was already covered in wounds, and I was already almost out of mana. Although the quality of my mana had increased, my body's ordinary capabilities still existed within it. Hence, I deduced it would probably take me longer. Talent. I suddenly remembered what I had said to Sylvia yesterday. A genius's suffering isn't superior to the hardships of someone mediocre. You, who does not need instruction, do not know the struggles of those who cannot grow without it. Now that I thought about it, I spoke that way out of envy and jealousy. This feeling of inferiority was probably the common denominator of Dekulin and Kim Woojin. Dekulin's inferiority complex dominated over him, turning him into a villain. Kim Woojin's inferiority complex made him resign from himself, turning him into someone flawed and lacking. Both couldn't get over it. I smiled self-deprecatingly. This is funny. But what I said to Sylvia yesterday was by no means a lie. Sylvia's growth would be maximized at the Isle of Wizards' wealth, since many events and quests awaited her there that would eventually allow her to overtake Dekulin. I had to make that choice to ensure I'd be able to face Archmage Sylvia somewhere along the main quest. That's what the floating island was for. After straightening my clothes, I went outside where I found Roy waiting. It was exactly 7 a.m. Have Ren and Enon left? Yes. Okay, I nodded. The two siblings went on a business trip to establish an information office. On their return, they would be bringing a few individuals suitable for the job with them. And Miss Uriel has come. Uriel was sitting in the tea room of the Ukline mansion, the 2 cups of black tea she brought with her exuding a fragrant aroma that enveloped the entire place. I'm going to have a cutting ceremony. Will you come? Taking a sip from her cup, she raised her concern. I meant the opening of the underground passage. The underground passage was originally opened quite late. Here, quite late meant at least a year or more from the Mareks opening to the time when Uriel came up with her business idea due to the constant casualties. In other words, it was built a year earlier. Do you have any drawings? I have a video of it. Uriel pulled out a crystal ball. When she imbued it with mana, a video came up. It's about 80 km and starts at Siajikbai, a village at the northern end of our territory, and ends at the entrance of Marek. What do you think? The underground passage shown in the video wasn't just a crypt. It was wide and tall enough to offer comfort, and its tiles and exterior walls were modern and neat. Again, this is not just a passage. Look, don't you think it'll be too tiring to go home right after finishing work at Marek? That's why I also built an underground shopping district area. The crystal ball displayed the location she spoke of, showcasing a place that held true to its name. It was almost like a modern subway. It's empty now, but it'll soon have restaurants, shops, hotels, among others, which will generate additional income for us on top of tolls. Adventurers will spend their money to their heart's content here. Uriel folded her arms, assuming a triumphant pose, seemingly thinking of herself as clever. If I order one, you make 10. Well, that's how I am. Uriel held back a smile. Good. There are a lot of stores that I've invested in these days, so let's put some branches inside. Magic Shop Lapopo, Rockcan's Wharf, Pig's Flower Restaurant, etc. There were many that I had obtained shares in. Oh, that, I was still trying to say. I mean, why the hell are you forcing yourself to invest? Suddenly, Uriel frowned. It was a strange reaction for me. Forcing myself? Yeah, you went to a store that didn't need investments and forcibly took its stake away. I recalled the memories of that time. I picked out all the shops through my man of great wealth, but some of them were reluctant to hand over their stake. They made their refusal clear. After saying that, she grew silent. After all, I went to the company or store that dared express their refusal and persuaded them in person. I thought from their perspective, Ukline, a gang of nobles that could be called one of the ultimate powerhouses of the empire, came out of nowhere to persuade or threaten them for their stake. The price was right. Anyway, do you plan on doing that in the future? Uriel asked. I nodded. I will continue to do so. There was no reason not to. Even if those guys were reluctant right now, it would eventually be a win-win in the future. As long as the result was good, I didn't care about its process. I didn't have much time left to walk sideways. Gosh. It's their fault for rejecting my investment, Uriel. She took a deep, contemptuous breath. Forget it. Are you coming to the cutting ceremony? That would depend on its schedule. It'll probably be held next week. What's the plan for today? After teaching Her Majesty, I'll visit the auction house for a moment. The auction house again? That's crazy. You're impossible. Uriel sounded and looked startled again. I shook my head. I'll be selling this time. Ah, Tilda, I almost got angry again. And this. Uriel held out the luxuriously packaged box that she had left on the table. This is a gift from the Eucline Underground Passage Builder. Open it. I opened its lid with psychokinesis. Inside was an unexpectedly familiar object. You know what's that, right? Even if it's a little odd. It was made of high-quality iron with a golden pattern, the Eucline symbol, embossed on its black surface. A revolver. It's a trending item among the nobles of the kingdom these days. I'm not sure if its ability to kill is superior to a sword, but it's not bad for self-defense when dealing with robbers. There were gunpowder-powered guns in this world like this pistol, but they weren't that popular since they couldn't penetrate mana, and the knight's visual acuity exceeded their bullet's speed. Isn't it beautiful? Yeah. It was indeed aesthetically pleasing, so much so that it looked closer to art than a weapon. That alone improved the image of the contractor in my head. It made me think that was the true reason why people gave gifts. This is well made. Tell them I'll keep it. Ah, you're keeping it. Aren't you going to throw it away? Uriel asked, her tone soft. No. What are you going to use it for? Wizards usually don't like things like that, don't they? I showed it to you thinking you'd throw it away. Uriel looked at the revolver in my hand, desire, greed, and disappointment flashing in her eyes. I shook it from side to side, and her stare followed its every move. Are you going back right away, Uriel? I asked, sliding it in my inner pocket. Uriel replied with a sigh. I'm going to take a break, Tilda. I've been suffering from a lot of work lately, Tilda, so I've been looking for something to give myself as a present, Tilda. Take a good rest. Gosh, really? It's annoying. This sucks. Roy. Ignoring Uriel, I called my butler. Let's go. Yes, the vehicle is ready. It was time to go to the Imperial Palace. Man, I should have just taken it. Why did I show him? Why? I'm a moron. I shouldn't have even let the asshole know about it. Uriel, who returned to her own room, hit her foot against the bed. Her whole body trembled with regret. I wanted to use it for hunting. Uriel, who had lost the revolver, was blankly imagining a playful scene where she was aiming at a wild boar with the revolver. Amid the quiet, snowy mountain, she and her prey, a beast that had eaten 10 woodcutters, were the only ones around. She felt the moment of tension rise when the cold wind scratched her skin. Your future is in my hands. She closed one eye, calculated the wind direction and distance thoroughly, and pulled the trigger indifferently. Bong. The projectile thundered through space, piercing its target, causing its shell to break, its muscles to rip, and its heart to explode. As her prey struggled to escape inevitable death, she blew off the heat rising from her weapon's muzzle. Phew, I got it. The vassals who watched her while holding their breath ran out and responded with applause. Amid the cheers, Uriel smiled, seemingly finding its fate a pity. That pleasant future was taken away by Deculine. Phew, why does he like that kind of thing too? Is this because we are related by blood? Uriel jumped up and straightened her messy hair, then went out of the room. She had a mission today, the regular inspection. Sneaking up the stairs so as not to be noticed by the attendant, she first infiltrated the study. Let's see. Deculine had a flair for organization, so it was rather easy to predict what papers he might put where. It's here. She found a document called Investment Status. As she hastily scanned through its contents with concern, her eyes widened in surprise. Hey, what the hell is this number? It doesn't make sense. According to rumors these days, Deculine spent billions of elnies in investments, but his profits far exceeded what he spent, and they continued to grow day by day. Even the 200 million elnies he wasted in the last auction he attended, as a bidder had already been recovered a long time ago. What the hell is that damn brother of mine doing? Goosebumps rose on Uriel's arms. Whatever it was, she thought Dekilleen would inevitably leave behind a trail of chaos. You want me to clean up after you again? Uriel carefully returned the document where she found it, then came out. Pretending that nothing had happened, she went down to the first floor and found something in the living room. Innocently, Uriel asked, "Hey, what are all these?" "Bandages and medicines." "Bandages? Medicine?" "Yes, these are the things the master has ordered." Uriel tilted her head. "Why did he buy so many?" "We don't know that either. They're apparently to be used in the annex building." "The annex building." Uriel looked out the window and gazed at the infrastructure in question. Did he kidnap Luina and dump her over there by any chance? As she stared at it, her servant spoke in a serious tone. "Not even you, miss, should go inside it." "I won't." The servant still looked suspiciously at her. They received high salaries and welfare from Dekilleen. Hence, their loyalty to him was unbreakable. "I won't go anywhere near it. I'll be in my room. Bring me my meal later." "Okay, let me accompany you." "No, it's okay. I'll stand by in front of your door in case you need anything." Her family's servants were adamant. The youngest of them was assigned to Uriel. "You guys, just wait." Uriel growled and climbed the stairs, the imperial palace. "I have read your entire book," Sophian said, shaking my book Understanding the Pure Elements. Calmly, I replied, "How was it?" "I have learned everything. Look." Sophian simultaneously embodied all the magic recorded in the book. In less than a minute, pure elements hovered all over the place. It was lame. I remained expressionless, but I admired her. Was this what it meant to be chosen by the heavens? To have talent that transcended humanity? I can see that. I wrote down today's course in the lesson log I brought with me. Sophian glanced at my documents. "What is it?" "It's a teaching journal." "You're working way too hard." I didn't answer. Her Majesty Sophian was taught by an ordinary wizard in 2 weeks during 1 semester. While I was writing in the journal, Sophian continued talking to me. "Your fiancé wasn't that good." My fountain pen stopped. I wasn't angry. However, I couldn't understand what she meant. Julie had so much talent she would rise to the top of the knights in the future. To say that Julie's skills weren't good would be a similar error to saying that 1 + 1 = 3. "What? Are you mad at me for cursing your fiancé?" The Emperor grinned as I gazed at her. Sophian never told a lie. She hated the very act of it, after all. However, her personality multiplied the questions I had. I think a little more detailed explanation is needed. Julie, in her field, is the best among the knights I know. It's as I've said. She's not that good. Of course, she is an excellent knight, but she's a little different from public opinion. That was nonsensical. I recalled how Julie looked in the story and the game I played. More specifically, I remembered the scene where she, becoming the best knight to ever exist, killed Dekilleen. "During our last class, you said, 'Once you have mastered my lessons and I can no longer provide more meaning to you, then the true point of my words will show itself to you.'" Sophian imitated me. "So, are you ready to answer my question?" A deep smile appeared on her lips. Her narrowly curved, flaming red pupils looked like snakes slithering through magic. Looking at her, I shook my head. "There are still classes left." "Classes left. This is just the second class." "Silence. I have just embodied all of your magic more perfectly than anyone else could. Today, we'll conduct a basic magic test." "No, you bastard. What is left for you to teach me?" Bang. Sophian punched the desk, her brows arching inwardly and her manner rising in the form of an aura due to her sheer anger. Patience did not exist for the bored emperor. "Stop spouting nonsense. Isn't my magic superior to yours?" She was right. Her current magical ability was superior to mine. She was, after all, a divine being that could easily transcend any wizard in the world if she wanted to. However, there was one magic that I could overwhelm her with. The most important thing in everything is the foundation, just like how physical fitness is important in physical efficiency. I casually said as I made my fountain pen levitate. Psychokinesis is basic magic that's suitable for starting the operation series. Of course, it's also divided into basic, beginner, intermediate, and advanced, but it is useless. The Emperor interrupted me. She murmured as she stared fiercely into my eyes. "Dekilleen, do you know how many wizards have gone through this burden?" I don't. 33, and among them were Rohakon and Belladamon. I didn't want to talk about Rohakon, but Belladamon was also an ethereal wizard. Both were giants in the world of wizardry. They didn't even discuss basic magic with me. My basic is already superior to others. That was also correct. If the psychokinesis output of an ordinary wizard was 10, and the output of a great wizard was 20, the Emperor was 10 times that amount at 100. Since the basic version of her magic was already 10 times better than normal, it was only natural that the difference between her and others widened as she progressed to advanced magic. Therefore, even if she used the same magic, the Emperor unconditionally had the upper hand against others. Her basic physical strength was already at the level of a superhuman. Is that so? It doesn't matter, however, I am not Rohakon. What? Deculine, are you experiencing a cerebral rupture? The magic circle of my psychokinesis covered my entire body. It wouldn't be wrong to say that my physique became the embodiment of psychokinesis and, statistically, my output was 50 times that of an ordinary wizard. It was 5 times superior to Sophian's. All you have to do is simple. Take this fountain pen within 30 minutes. What are you doing? Hey. Are you crazy? At least with psychokinesis, the Emperor wouldn't be able to defeat me. Her boredom would be blocked by a wall known as my magic. Of course, it'll be difficult at first. However, if you set a purpose for yourself and work hard for it ceaselessly, you'll be able to win one day. Are you insulting me now? Sophian's expression hardened. I spoke in a calm tone. Let's begin. If you defeat me, I will answer all your questions honestly. My fountain pen, which hovered in the air with psychokinesis, stopped in front of Sophian's nose. There is no need for questions anymore. Sophian looked at me, her rising aura already subsiding. However, that stillness was far stronger as it was the evidence of her rage. Are you willing to put your life at stake? She asked me, sincerity accompanying her voice. That, too, served as proof that my provocation worked. Of course, I smiled. I was calm and my voice sounded relaxed, but I was just as sincere as she was. Take it. Giving Sophian a raw feeling, that was the purpose of today's lecture, Chapter 74, The Incident 2. Indifferently, Sophian stared at the fountain pen stuck in the air. She had learned recently that Fireball of the Destruction series, Barrier of the Auxiliary series, and Psychokinesis of the Operations series were the basics of each series of magic. Additionally, there was a certain limit to one's magic output, so it was common knowledge that a wizard's talent greatly influenced their prowess. Sophian pulled the fountain pen towards her with her own psychokinesis. In doing so, she destroyed the entire study room, but her target didn't even budge. Her magic tore apart the flooring, demolished the ceiling, smashed the columns, and obliterated the bookshelves around them. Amid the ruins of it, Deculine remained calm, unwavering. He didn't even look tired at all. His breathing was relaxed, and his dignity remained intact. His aristocratic appearance stimulated Sophian. That's amazing. She had a keen and sharp sense of feeling of what was possible and what was yet to be so. Deculine's psychokinesis belonged to the latter. Of course, she didn't want to admit it at first, but now that she had almost run out of time, she had no other choice left. 20 minutes have passed. The Emperor gazed at Deculine, whose blue eyes had been observing her. His irises were filled with mystery, yet they shone like crystals. I can see why you displayed so much confidence earlier. I can't beat your psychokinesis. Sophian grinned. Deculine answered, then let's start the concept class now. You still have a concept left to teach me. Yes, I want to show you a concept only I know. A concept only you know. He drew a magic circle in the air while answering her, forming a shape that was far from ordinary magic circles. Incredible. The Emperor rested her chin on the back of her hand. More than the magic circle he showed, she found Deculine himself interesting. I know you. I've read you through a document, and I've been observing you in person. Sophian took out all the papers that the intelligence agency gave her and handed them straight to him. None of them were right about you. That's a classified document, Your Majesty. You shouldn't show it to anyone. He frowned as he looked at the document, but Sophian didn't even care. They were all wrong anyway. They said your talents were fake, and that you've only been deceiving others all this time, but the Deucalion I see now is different. The Emperor stared at him, her self-righteous gaze harboring strong doubts. You are full of anonymity and mystery. I think you're hiding a secret. Am I wrong? No, you're right, Deucalion confirmed. He never lied. Sophian was content with just that. Since he didn't try to deceive her, he deserved to look at her in this place. Good. One day I will rip your secret out of you. If you engross yourself in my class, Your Majesty, that moment won't be far away. Deucalion's answer was filled with vigor. The Emperor, laughing bitterly, finally looked at the magic circle presented by Deucalion. This is the magic I want to teach you. It's a concept from ancient times, and it's one of the branches of the magic theory that's been reinvented by the modern era. What is it? It's rune language. Rune language? Sophian's eyes filled up with surprise, but Deucalion remained calm. Yes. From the moment he destroyed the runes, he intended to teach the Emperor everything he learned about them to break her boredom and give her great power to confront the future final boss. I heard it was destroyed. She was also aware of his symposium. The eyes and ears of the imperial family had always been the fastest to deliver such news in the world. The knowledge still exists in my mind. However, from now on, there will be no evidence of it in my class. That was possible only because at this moment, Deucalion was a teacher, and Sophian was his student. It was a communion made only through words and magic. At that moment, the Emperor realized his intentions. Another emotion came in her gaze as she stared at him. I will tell Your Majesty all of the 48 runes that I have interpreted. If you perform your psychokinesis in runes, even I can be defeated. No wizard in the world would find it easy to destroy their research, even more so if it was about the rune language. What kind of madman would completely bury such a thing, if not a person who really wanted to leave their mark on this world as the epitome of insanity? I understand now. Sophian understood what Deucalion meant. He seemed to have been patiently waiting for her. You mean to tell me to be your disciple? A superhuman capable of accepting the ancient and powerful magic called rune, the talent that could carry on his research and bring it higher than anyone else ever could. Yes. Deucalion nodded frankly. The Emperor simply smiled. Your Majesty will be the first disciple of my rune language. That was his purpose. From their very first meeting, that was already his goal. By teaching you the runes, I will be able to understand Your Majesty, and Your Majesty will also be able to understand me. Arrogant bastard. Sophian laughed. She wasn't really bothered. Rather, she liked his boldness. Okay, I don't know if it'll go your way, but I'll give it a try. Deucalion immediately assembled the runes. The way he rushed, as if he had been waiting all this time, was so honest that she found it rather cute. After 90 minutes of class, I came out of the study room. Duke Eucline. As I was walking down the corridors of the Imperial Palace, I heard someone call my name. Turning around, I saw Eunuch Jialang, a blonde-haired, fair-skinned man with short stature and a beard that didn't seem capable of growing any longer. Are you done with Her Majesty's classes? Despite being a vassal, his neatness made him seem more like a servant. I knew who he was. He was a named vassal who played a significant role in the Imperial Palace. He was also the master of the Devil's Mirror quest called The Darkness of the Imperial Palace. Yes. Then, there's something I need to tell you. Is it about what lurks beneath the Imperial Palace? Jialang looked surprised, but he soon removed any emotions on his face as he looked up at me. That's right. Follow me. This isn't the right place to discuss it. There are ears listening and eyes watching all over this place at all times. I followed Jialang through the Imperial Palace's corridors, passing hundreds of rooms until Jialang entered one of them. It was an empty room with the scent of incense. It's perfect for a secret meeting. Haha, yes, that's the purpose of this room in the first place. Do eunuchs have dates too? Well, it depends on the time. Anyway, Deucalion, let me explain what lies in the darkness of the Imperial Palace. I already knew the story behind it. Amid the darkness under this grandiose structure was a demon's product. To be precise, no one knew if it was demonic in nature or not. Regardless, that mirror reflected the other side of this world. There was no problem if it just reflected it. However, it also led to a passage to it, and at this point, it had already been a long time since it first encroached on the basement. So we are gathering people to clean up the basement. Her Majesty is trusting the Duke of Eucline. All right. I didn't ask much. I didn't need to ask. This was a quest I had already cleared when I was testing the game. However, I have a condition. What is it? Julie is to be excluded. Jialing raised an eyebrow and soon laughed softly. Is that a form of hedgehog love? Jialing might have just said it as a joke or a sarcastic remark, but the sentence pierced my mind intensely. Hedgehog love. Two hedgehogs shivering in the cold approached each other to share their body temperature. Trying to survive the winter, they cuddled as close as they could to each other, but eventually they realized, the closer they were to each other, the more their thorns wounded them. It was a joke. Misunderstanding my stiff expression, Jialing quickly changed his words. It's okay. Just take what I said. Yes, all right. I'll explain it as best as I can tonight, Julie. I nodded and left. My head was filled with complicated thoughts, and I consumed a lot of mana while teaching Safian the runes, but I still had one more schedule left to handle. Haylech's auction house. As the wealthiest city of the empire, Haylech was a trendsetter center of all kinds of goods, rare treasures, splendid luxury, and beautiful art. Arloes closed her eyes as she basked in the sunlight as bright as Haylech's gold. Vitality different from the ashes filled the streets of this affluent conurbation. A small leaf fell on her shoulder as she walked, and a voice came from it. Arloes, her eyes widened. This is Zhukaken. Zhukaken was in a cooperative relationship with the altar, much like Arloes. However, at the same time, he was also one of the 6 snakes. I definitely said I'm not going to participate. This mission is about subjugation, not assassination. Also, the plan is simple. I just need you and Jarek. There's no risk involved. Jarek won't be able to help you that much. He loses his reason when it comes to Dakilline. He doesn't suit your cautious temper. Zhukaken from the underworld was thorough. He had to have been thinking of a tactic since the altar offered 30 million elnes for Dakilline's captivity. By comparison, Jarek was more like an insane psychopath with dissociative personality disorder. Have you forgotten that Dakilline held his own against Rohakan during their clash? That alone should tell you this task requires immense force. He needs to be there. If our goal were to kill him, Jarek would do it for free. I repeat, this mission is about subjugation, not assassination. Walking while having a conversation, she arrived at Haylech's auction house. She looked up at the sign that said Klein. I'll hang up. The altar added the Mana Stone of Extinction as part of the bounty, and I'm willing to give you 15% of it. I only need your puppet and Jarek. With the Mana Stone of Extinction now included in their negotiations, she grew a bit greedy. Zhukaken grabbed that opening. You only need to lend your puppet. On the right side of the road, you'll see a red-haired, middle-aged man smoking a cigarette. Arloes looked in the provided direction, finding a driver wearing a suit and doing what the intel said. He's Jeff, Dakilline's driver. We'll subdue him, so you pretend to be him with your puppet. Dakilline has a history of noticing my puppets, you idiot. He was the first person to ever see through her magic. Of course, thanks to the hint he gave her, her puppets no longer emitted ashes. Dakilline doesn't pay much attention to his servants since he thinks of them as tools. It'll be fine. I can guarantee you that much. She didn't answer. We're talking about a mana stone of the highest quality here, Arloes. A gem equivalent to a mana diamond humans hasn't touched or tainted yet. Don't you want it? I estimate the value of the mana stone they offered alone to be at 100 million elnes. I'll give you 15% of that. 15%. After thinking for a moment, she replied, 20%. Zhukaken grew silent. Either way, Arloes had nothing to lose. She had a personal grudge against Dakilline, but she didn't want to turn the entire Eucline family into her enemy. Damn it. It's a deal. I, underworld ruler Zhukaken, promise a 20% reward to the money-eating hippo Arloes. Great, but don't be in a hurry. Opportunities don't come very often. Today is the best. Arloes nodded. After that, she went inside Klein. I need your ID, please. Here. Yes, Solet. Confirmed. There were many people in Klein, Haylech's auction house, Most of them were beautifully dressed, seemingly trying to declare their aristocracy. They were probably aiming for Homeren's fragmented ring like her, but she had no intention of handing it over to anyone. 2 hours later. Congratulations on winning your bid for Homeren's fragmented ring, Solette. The owner of the good is waiting here. Arloes nodded, having been guided by the staff to the auction house's backstage after accomplishing her goal. The owner was standing with his back turned in the middle of the backstage. For some reason, she thought his silhouette was familiar. The successful bidders have come. The staff member said. When he looked back, his identity surprised her, but she didn't show it. De Killeen. He looked at her with his back to the sun, creating quite the dazzling scenery. Congratulations on winning the bid, he said, carrying an object in one hand. Arloes approached calmly. She had nothing to be nervous about. De Killeen didn't know her true form. Thank you. Was your name Solette? Arloes nodded. As he looked at her, he smiled. That gesture was familiar for her. Men could never stop themselves from smiling whenever her beauty blessed them. However, she still grew a bit reluctant since who she was up against wasn't just any ordinary person. Here's Homeren's fragmented ring. It was a good deal. Indeed. As she received the item that cost her 20 million elnes, De Killeen looked past her with surprise in his eyes. Sylvia? Yes. Arloes also noticed her a little too late. It really was Sylvia, the daughter of the Iliade family. Lotrin's pumpkin brooch. Was it you who bought it? Yes, with the pocket money I've saved so far. Shouldn't you be busy with the final exams? It's okay. Arloes watched the strange combination for a moment. De Killeen looked perplexed. Sylvia was expressionless, but she emitted a strange glow. I'll take my leave now. Arloes went out. The brooch is pretty. Professor, have you had dinner yet? I did. Oh. She thought it would be rather nice if she dragged time. After the auction, I got into the car. Keep safe. Sylvia bowed outside the window, her hair decorated with Lotrin's pumpkin brooch. She stayed with me backstage for nearly 30 minutes. Thank you, the brooch suits you well. Oh. Sylvia's cheeks puffed up as I closed the window. Let's go back to the tower. Yes. Today's driver was Jeff. The vehicle slid off its parking space. As usual, I leaned against the back of my chair and pulled out a thesis. Solda Drent thesis? Earth rotation. This was the thesis Solda-ranked Wizard Drent asked for corrections during career counseling last week. My correction was so highly valued that I didn't just accept anyone asking for it. I want to be Professor De Killeen's assistant. Drent agreed to apply under my command. He seemed to have reflected on himself a lot, so I took it as part of the contract. The core circuit of Earth rotation is to be set up in this way, considering its role is... it's inefficient. I laughed at the first paragraph of it, discovering an inefficient circuit from the very beginning of his paper. Too naive. The flow of its circuit, its knots, and its connections were loose. It was because the effect of Earth rotation itself was too difficult. Your ability is insufficient compared to the goal you've set. I continued to read his thesis. It's strange that he came to me, but... However, his idea for his thesis wasn't as bad as his execution, so there was room for development. He needs proper teaching. To be honest, he had too much talent to be under De Killeen. Arloes drove De Killeen's vehicle. Zukaken kidnapped Jeff as planned, and she imbued her puppet with Jeff's image and her soul. She looked at De Killeen in the rearview mirror, who was reading some documents. She couldn't see what was written on it, though. With this distance between us, he won't notice me. Arloes swallowed a sigh of relief. Her puppets were no different from humans. Moreover, she perfectly took on the appearance of his driver. Combining that with the intel that he couldn't care less about his servants, she thought he would never notice. However, it's inefficient, De Killeen said. Arloes's heart pounded. Instinctively, she gripped the car's steering wheel tightly. What did he mean by inefficient? Arloes looked at De Killeen in the rearview mirror, and he continued calmly. Too naive. Arloes clenched her teeth. Your ability is insufficient compared to the goal you've set. She was certain. He had seen through her puppet. For Arloes, it was a humiliation in itself, and it was a question. How was this possible? Was there any magic that could grasp her puppet at once our plan failed? Arloes tried to convey the words to Zukaken, but something was wrong. She felt a strange sense of discomfort. Even though he already noticed it, why wasn't Dekiline showing any hostility? He expressed his extreme agitation within her barrier back then. Was he just talking to himself right now? It's strange that he came to me, but he needs proper teaching. Teaching. As she pondered about it, his arrogant tone made her bite down on her lower lip. She had finally realized. She didn't know if their plan had been leaked, and if there was a traitor among them, but it didn't matter now. Dekiline had fully anticipated their operation, and even probably already knew who was behind it. He had been waiting for this meeting long before they even planned it. Arlos's breathing became rough, but she soon calmed down. She could just get out of her puppet anyway, Zukaken. If this guy quietly comes with me, the rest is up to you. Chapter 75. The Incident 3. Rambling while reading the thesis, I shut my mouth at some point. However, I kept revising it. This has a lot of wrong and inefficient parts. Keep the idea, but Drent had an unfortunate incident during his first thesis defense, but to the original Dekiline, he was a talent that he couldn't even dare think of recruiting. It was an unexpected harvest for me, considering I thought only Epheren would fall under my command. That put me in an unintentional good mood, which probably was what made me talk to myself out loud. It wasn't like me, no. I didn't even know what it meant to be me at this point. Dekiline's personality was authoritarian. The better the opponent was, the more he desired to make them bow down to him. Hence, when a genius became my underling, I felt a certain joy rise within me. However, that joy was quickly replaced by something entirely different. My Iron Man characteristic made my body develop hypersensitive senses, allowing me to recognize Alan's secret. Those very same senses now emitted a similar sensation at the corner of my mind. Whoever was holding the steering wheel, it wasn't Jeff. However, I refrained from acting rashly. Looking around the car's interior, I found no danger perceived by the villain's fate, which was as I expected. After all, if it were a risk to get on this car in the first place, this attribute's radar would have already caught it. However, it did have a blind spot. The villain's fate indicated leading to death, not all danger. I opened the window. The passing scenery was nothing out of the ordinary, but when the wind that accompanied it came in, it was swiftly engulfed by a bright red hue, covering the entire road with it. Beyond my eyes stretched a lifeless zone. The safest place, at least in this seemingly desolated area, was inside the car. The moment I became aware of the current situation, a message popped up. Unexpected quest. Encounter store currency +1. A quest had been issued. An encounter. Unknowingly, I smiled. I didn't know who arranged this nonsensical meeting, but I'll think of it as an invitation. That would be far more convenient for me. I looked at the person in the driver's seat through the rearview mirror. Making eye contact with me, he tightened his grip on the steering wheel. Beads of sweat were forming on his forehead. Don't worry, I won't do anything ungentlemanly. You're not real anyway, right? He didn't answer. There was still time. I continued revising the thesis. Vroom, Jarek glared at Dekiline's car as it approached them in the distance. He was supposed to pursue him from a reasonable distance, but he found that frustrating, considering he was filled with murderous intent for their target. Why can't I kill him? Jarek asked. Arlos, driving the car remotely, answered calmly. Are you Jarek? Yeah, I'm Jarek. I'm just like you now, Arlos. A puppet. She stepped on the accelerator without answering. The puppet driving Dekiline's car now was a half-doll implanted with around 7% of her soul. Hence, it lacked bodily wisdom and was immature and vague. However, what it saw, heard, and felt was fully transmitted to the puppeteer herself, allowing it to act as if it were the main body. It was the only way to make her magic work perfectly. A puppet that knew it was, in fact, a puppet wouldn't move animatedly. More accurately, it wouldn't have the will to do anything. It wouldn't perform its duties properly and would occasionally refuse to receive orders. However, since soul departure charged an extremely high penalty for completely transplanting one's soul into a puppet, she developed an alternative method with great care. Does your puppet die as soon as your soul in it returns to you? Doesn't it know what it is? Something like that. That's cruel. Do they have no personality? I'm making the necessary sacrifice. She laughed bitterly. He glanced at her. What sacrifice? I don't know if the current me is a puppet or the main body anymore. Jarek's eyes widened. Even her, thought to be the main body, might just be a part of the soul given to her by the real Arloes, hidden somewhere. Her memories might also just be a fake the main body had manipulated and instilled within her. She was the master of the perfect puppet, even though she was an imperfect human. Since the perfect puppet was a human, Arloes would live her whole life with the suspicion that she could be a puppet too. I like that on Unnai. Jarek smiled broadly. At the word Unnai, Arloes frowned. I told you not to come out. Unnai Tilda, Jarek grinned and ran to Arloes. With her shoulder, she shoved the fully grown man whose personality had switched to his younger sisters. Unnai Tilda, I love you so much, Tilda. Don't cling to me. I'm driving. He was lucky to have had a pretty face for a man. If he looked like a bearded bandit, she would have already killed him. Unnai Tilda, your noisy Zelen. Among all of Jarek's personalities, she was the easiest to handle. But, Unnai, I don't think I can stand this for much longer. I want to kill Deculine as much as my brother does. You know how I died, right? I've heard about it dozens of times from Jarek. In response to her answer, Zelen's eyebrows furrowed. Humph. My stupid brother steals everything. I was the one who thought of all the topics we could use for conversation, but he's the one who reveals them all. Grumbling, Zelen suddenly lowered her head and grabbed the hem of her pants. Soon enough, she asked in a lower voice, Unnai. What? I'm real, right? Arloes turned to look at her. Well, she was a puppeteer and a soul master. It was no coincidence that she teamed up with Jarek. Don't bother trying to find the answer to that. Jarek's numerous personalities, which might be the result of a mental illness, could just be a part of the soul that his main body had given. You'll be fine if you don't think about it too deeply. That polymorphism was his identity. Living a life without knowing whether he was real or fake was quite blurry, and sometimes, like an anchor in his heart, he dragged all his emotions down to the gloomy abyss. Everything in the world is like that. If you never think too deeply about anything, you'll always be fine. Believe in the resilience of your ego and live shallowly. Unnai Tilda Zelen rushed in excitement, but Arloes pushed her chin away with her elbow. Piss off, Jarek. Sheesh, how did you know? Zelen's acting skills were excellent, but Jarek's wasn't. She clicked her tongue. I don't have time to play around. At that moment, she heard Deculine's voice through the puppet's ears. An encounter, but I'll think of it as an invitation. That damn professor's intuition was astounding. In fact, she was ready to break the plan when he realized she was a puppet, but if she did, Jarek would be forced to go on his own. That would be even worse. Deculine is taking this encounter as an invitation. He's confident. Really? That's interesting. After all, he fought Rohakan to a tie. I couldn't kill that old man either. When did he become so strong? Not long after, Arloes' body trembled when she heard Deculine say something significant. Don't worry, I won't do anything ungentlemanly. You're not real anyway, right? Of course, he might be saying that since he was talking to a puppet, but if, by some chance, Deculine was talking about the authenticity of her soul itself. What is it, Arloes? Nothing. It couldn't be. Only God could determine a human soul's authenticity. We're almost there. Their destination was already in sight, which was a vacant lot away from the Imperial City. Its basement was empty under the pretext of being under development. Woo-woo, Tilda, I've been looking forward to this. Are there beasts in your personality too, Jarek? Yeah, of course. The one I raised is. There's some cowboy wielding a shotgun too? Hell yeah. Smiling, Jarek roared like a tiger. The car moved slowly. Buildings and street lights along the road gradually disappeared, and at some point the entire vehicle sank into the basement of an empty, vacant lot. Darkness filled the unknown space that stretched beyond the window. They stopped in the middle of it. Deculine looked at the driver's seat, finding Jeff had already turned into a mannequin. Was it Arloes? He looked out the window again, having no problem scanning his surroundings due to the villain's fate. Deculine got out of the car, finding himself in what seemed like an underground parking lot. Click, clack, click, clack. The sound footsteps echoed all around him. Good to see you. A voice came from his right. Without much vigilance, he looked towards the direction it came from. He found no remained calm. It's been a while, Tilda. Soon, a man dressed in cloak-like darkness appeared. D'Killeen identified him as soon as he saw his face, Zukaken. He was a named character in the underworld. "Oh, stop, stop. You mean don't come any closer, right?" Taking one step forward, he reacted noisily and waved his hand. It was an odd gesture. "Don't move more than that. Just stand there." D'Killeen looked at him through his lens. Ruler rating. Unique. Description: someone who plays politics. Through agreement, he can mimic the imitable attributes of others. However, it is limited to attributes that are lower than unique, and there must be no violence involved in the process of an agreement. As the only one among the 6 snakes to use the underworld as his base, he was a pretty special named. The Dark District was still within the Imperial Power's reach, so the risk was high, but he had long since solidified his influence and status with all kinds of bribes, earning him the nickname Ruler. "Don't be too serious. You're going to wrinkle your handsome face." He was dressed in an aristocratic outfit with no shortage of tailcoats. Sweeping his long, purple hair to the right, he continued, "I offer you a peaceful deal." D'Killeen quietly listened to what he had to say. This encounter was a side branch of the main quest anyway. "The altar wants your runes. Give me your interpretation. After verifying its authenticity, they will divide the prize on your head by 2 and give half of it to you. You'll get at least 100 million. What do you think?" Zukaken grinned, asking for his opinion. A robed man had appeared beside him. "You're too cocky," D'Killeen answered. Tusk. Clicking his tongue, he ruffled his long hair and shook his head, displaying his faint anger, then looked at him again. "I know you. That's why I want to settle this peacefully. I'm not asking you to hand over all of your runic rights. If you want, I'll cast rights magic on your runes. That way, only the higher-ups of the altar would be able to see them. For that purpose, a wizard will accompany—" "Zukaken," he interrupted. "If you truly do know me, correct the tone of your voice." Within him boiled a wave of distinct anger that twisted his grudge against D'Killeen. He found the professor's arrogance so annoying that he couldn't keep this going anymore. "I'm not the kind of person you see eye to eye with. You're a piece of garbage that mimics a nobleman. From whom did you learn such a habit?" Zukaken's expression hardened at his words. He licked his lips a few times, then lowered his head briefly. Afterward, he grabbed the back of his neck and laughed. "You're still arrogant even though your situation isn't ideal right now. Wake up." Sighing, he continued, "The altar can simply open your skull, get your brain, and get the runes. You wouldn't like that, would you? Moreover—" Snap. A barrier appeared when he snapped his finger, wrapping around tens of meters in radius from D'Killeen's feet. Zukaken stared at him outside of its perimeter. "I'm sure you know better than me how strong and dense that barrier is, considering you're a magic professor. A glance would be enough to know it would be hard to break. In accordance to your reputation for dealing with Rohaken, I prepared the utmost courtesy for you." Eerie energy soared into the air. A clear intent to kill filled the empty basement the top of the due to the appearance of a certain person. "Same, I'll say it again, D'Killeen. This is not a request or suggestion." D'Killeen looked at the man next to the ruler. He tried to determine who he was, but he couldn't see his face. "Is that your boyfriend?" Startled, Zukaken yelled. "Stop acting crazy. You're one of the snakes, yet you're afraid of me." "Humph. If I was trying to kill you, I would have killed you sooner. However, I respect the prestige you have shown in the underworld. I just want a peaceful solution to this situation. How can you call yourself a man while being a coward? Hey, show yourself. It seems Professor D'Killeen refuses to wake up." The darkness on the other side of the barrier lifted, causing the head professor's expression to turn cold. The figure was exuding a death itself. Was a death is that Jarek? Right. You know him too. He's quite a famous guy. Multi-personality, Jarek was a monster with combat power that ranked among named madmen. At the time, he was a mass of death variables for D'Killeen. D'Killeen grinned. "What makes you think you can control him?" "I can't control him. If you break the barrier, he will kill you." From Jarek's feet, the death D'Killeen followed its red movement with his eyes. "And if you don't accept my proposal, he'll break the barrier himself and kill you." Was blocked by the barrier. It was a hint the villain's fate was telling him. This is weird. Yuha. Deucalion looked into it through understanding, learning that it was an independent type of magic that utilized an intermediary. Therefore, it didn't matter who the caster was. It worked solely through that link. That meant its owner could change at any time. Of course, it would require enormous calculation skills and time, but he had enough skills, and since its size was small, it wouldn't take long for him to calculate it. He analyzed it using understanding, traced the flow of mana inherent in it with vision, reversed the circuit and magic, and modified its intermediary with the Rockalock's Eucline cane in his hand. In no time at all, he had completely stolen the barrier. Soon after, Deucalion took his revolver out. 6 bullets were already loaded in it. Oh, what a wonderful accessory. Zeukaken just shrugged. Deucalion raised the gun, aiming at the ceiling of the barrier, and pulled the trigger. He fired 5 bullets in total. Although there were no scratches on the force field, it attracted his target's attention. "Jarek, can you hear me?" "I can hear you, but I am not Jarek," he replied. Raising an eyebrow, he asked, "Who are you?" "Zelen, my brother won't come out." "No matter what you do, I won't let him make a mistake here." "That's cute," Deucalion quietly nodded. "Still, he must be watching." "No, it doesn't matter what you do, it won't work." She narrowed her eyes at him as he calmly checked the revolver's remaining ammo. He had already used 5 bullets. 1 bullet remaining. He spoke indifferently, closed the gun's cylinder, and spun it, making it impossible to tell which chambers were empty. Jarek. Deucalion then put the gun to his temple, causing Zelen's eyes to widen. It was as if he was about to commit suicide. "Let's play a game." Realizing what he meant, she covered her mouth. Jarek was beginning to run rampant inside their body. Zeukaken simply frowned. Click. The sound of the revolver's firing pin flipping back echoed in the air. Once he pulled that trigger, there would be a certain probability that a projectile would come thundering into and through his skull and brain. "Will I kill myself before you can kill me?" An empty chamber, or the only remaining bullet. Deucalion apathetically continued. "Or will you wake up before I can kill myself?" He looked at Zelen with an unbreakable fortitude. Frantically, Zeukaken muttered, Hey, don't be fooled. That wizard must be doing some sort of trick." But it was all in vain. Whether or not magic was at work in this Russian roulette, those sensitive to magic knew best. "Are you going to let me go like this, so boringly?" Click, he put his finger hand on the trigger. With the muzzle resting on his temple, Deucalion smiled, Zelen's expression distorted. "First." Click. Zelen trembled in response to that empty percussion sound. "I got lucky." He flipped the revolver's firing pin again, at which point she shook her head and shouted, "This won't work." Deucalion's smile was still in full display, dawning upon one of Jarek's personalities. Zelen, right? Zeukaken accompanied Jarek, saying it was simply out of courtesy. After all, Jarek was a monster no one could control. Naturally, once his rage had been incurred, he would unconditionally target Deucalion. But what if his mental illness reached its peak? It would turn him into a madman who wouldn't even be able to tell allies and opponents apart. So, was the pain of drowning tolerable? Zelen didn't answer. Her expression darkened. Deucalion looked down at her feet and smiled, spreading everywhere except towards his barrier. Perhaps they didn't only apply to him. Chapter 76. Cohabitation 1. There was once a small settlement situated in a rustic mountain valley in the northwestern part of the empire. It housed about 100 households, and Jarek was born and raised in that village. As a young rural man, he led an ordinary, greedless life. He preferred one night's bread over gold and silver treasures, and a glass of wheat beer with his friends after farm work over careers and titles. Jarek was once again reminded of the magical tsunami that took it all away. No, the tragedy that buried his village was still fresh in his mind. He could never forget the deathly screams that echoed ceaselessly amid that painful night, the cold moans amid the waves, the lightning that fell upon their lands, the thunderous pounding of his heart, the skins of the drowned turning blue. Raging tidal waves and torrents engulfed his entire village, submerging his family, neighbors, cousins, friends, and lovers. The Eucline family caused that tragedy in the name of demon hunting. Their entire settlement was reduced into a lake during that hellish night, leaving him the only survivor. But Jarek didn't feel lonely. As he peered into the deep bottom of the lake, he felt a sense of fullness within his body. The personalities of his 11 family members had appeared in his mind. The Eucline might have destroyed his home, but the souls of those he held dear continued to live in his body. However, so was the pain of drowning tolerable. Deculine's voice brought back the agony of the past, obliterating Jarek's reasoning. Dark cries echoed from his soul. He once more relived their watery screams as they sank to their deaths. Asterisk, crazy bastard. Arloes hid in the dark as she watched the scene. Imprisoned in the barrier, Deculine pointed his gun at his own temple and smiled as he glared at Jarek. His expression alone despised and humiliated his opponent. Second, click, he pulled the trigger. No bullet was fired, but threatening mana erupted from Jarek's body. Open your eyes, Jarek. Deculine constantly provoked him. A hostage trying to take his own life was certainly an outrageous act, but it worked against him nonetheless. Jarek wanted him to die by his hands and his hands alone. Hence, he would never allow anyone to kill him except himself, not even Deculine himself. Deculine. Jarek called his name. His gaze and tone were filled with evil and poison, but Deculine simply kept his lips twisted upward while facing him like an innocent puppy. Right. The head of the family that submerged your village is right in front of you. Was the professor really willing to die to ensure the altar bastards wouldn't get their hands on his runes? Arloes was left with no choice. Jarek, don't be fooled. That revolver is fake. Zukakin murmured calmly, thoroughly analyzing Deculine with his magic-accustomed eyes. Is it? I'll have to shoot to find out. Unwaveringly, he put his finger on the trigger once more. I believe in my luck. He fired. The sound of a gunshot rang, overshadowing his confidence. Deculine fell, spattering blood all over the place as the deafening sound repeated like echoes. The entire lot grew so quiet not even the sounds of their breathing could be heard. Both Zukakin and Arloes found themselves perplexed. What is this? Was he dead? That barrier prevented them from gathering detailed information about his situation. But at least they felt no interference from magic or mana. Regardless, Deculine was a wizard, not a knight. It would have been difficult for him to withstand the lethality of bullets. No. His well-being wasn't their biggest concern right now, that no longer mattered to Jarek, after all. Well, I didn't think this operation would be easy anyway, Zukakin mumbled. In his descent to madness, Jarek's body black mana covered his body like armor, and, abandoning his humanity to turn into a dark monster, he began destroying the area around them. All sorts of magic radiated from his mouth, hands, and feet, enabling him to obliterate their vicinity. Zukakin's subordinates, the wizards and altar officers monitoring the operation, and Arloes's puppets were all torn apart by the wild beast Jarek turned into. His kicks crushed the pavement, and his nails broke the ceiling in half. Like a magic cannon, from his mouth blasted forth a breath, a devastating beam of light that imbued this underground lot even deeper into the earth. The only thing that remained intact in that hell was Deculine's barrier. Arloes, having escaped from her puppet and returned to her main body, looked around the basement in silence. Crackling, remnants of flames continued to burn on the crushed pavement. Deculine had been reduced into a corpse within the barrier, and Jarek remained worn out in the midst of it. He has no pulse, no vitals. She looked at their supposed hostage. His heart and his pulse had both stopped beating. She sighed and, approaching Jarek, growled afterward. You idiot, you give me too much work. Thanks to this damn maniac, all of her puppets had been smashed, leaving her with no other choice but to come using her main body. Arloes carried him since. Due to his tall and skinny build, he wasn't that heavy. However, as she was about to leave, she felt someone moving behind her. A grotesque chill clawed up her spine at the same time, nearly making her tremble. Glancing sideways, Arloes saw a man slowly rising back to his feet. I'm a bit dizzy. That voice shook her consciousness. Deculine, his cold eyes like a gemstone, stared at her. Arloes. When he called her name, she instinctively took a step back, widening the gap between them. Give me Jarek. What are you going to do with him? Killing him would be convenient. Dekilleen calmly answered, his tone mocking her for asking a question that could be answered by common sense alone. But Arloes shook her head. I won't give him away. Her motive wasn't as glamorous as comradeship. She wanted to protect Jarek simply because his existence was the material she needed to ultimately complete her puppetry in the future. Dekilleen shrugged. I can't help him. Arloes's mana took shape, creating a blue blade that illuminated the basement as it aimed for Dekilleen. As she prepared for combat, he continued in a strange way. I can only allow him to be brought with us. She frowned. His decision was based on simple logic. He knew he couldn't defeat her by force after all. His head was spinning as well. What do you mean? Let's go home together. He dismantled the barrier like it was nothing, then passed by Arloes, who was carrying Jarek. Woo! The basement collapsed the moment the barrier disappeared, but he made a passage with psychokinesis for them. She followed him skeptically. How did you survive? You didn't even use magic. I was certain your pulse stopped. Controlling my body is easy, he answered vaguely. As soon as he reached above ground, he immediately found her vehicle, a luxury car comparable to a Mercedes-Benz in modern times. You're driving. Put Jarek in the trunk. Temporarily following his orders, Arloes slid into the driver's seat as Dekilleen took the back seat. She looked at him in the rearview mirror. His posture, expression, and clothes remained all elegant and relaxed, which was surprisingly noble for a bastard who just committed suicide. Let's go. You think I'm your secretary? She clicked her tongue as she began driving. As they exited the darkness and reached the smooth pavement at the edge of the Empire, Arloes asked, is asking him about the pain of drowning despite knowing his past really something a human should do? Dekilleen only smiled. He used the bad relationship between Jarek and the Eucline family to bring him the outcome he desired. It wasn't as bad as it sounded. Kim Woojin knew how to clear the quest in such a way that would save Jarek from the terrible chaos he would have faced otherwise. Did you leave the ring you bought at the auction at home? Grinning, Arloes nodded. Since he had seen her main body, she had nothing left to hide. It'll look good on you. For some reason, Dekilleen's words kept scratching her nerves. It was as if there was a hidden meaning behind them. Through his overawe and grace characteristic, he made people anxious and feel smaller. Please stop. Not long after, some knights blocked the road ahead of them. As Arloes brought the car to a halt, a man approached. Open your window and show your ID. As he peered into the driver's seat, his eyes widened, finding Dekilleen in the back seat. Professor Dekilleen. Dekilleen nodded, and the knight roared. He's here. The professor's here. The moment he yelled, Arloes saw a gigantic man standing up slowly beyond the car's windshield. What? Professor Dekilleen, the Freyden family head, Zeit von Brugang Freyden. The moment his monstrous physique appeared, Arloes's hair stood. He was the knight who traumatized her 4 years ago. Is that so? Thud. 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 His gigantic strides required others to take 3 steps to match his speed. Zeit approached like a ghost or a grim reaper, his white hair waving due to the wind. Professor Dekilleen? He lowered the front seat window with his hand, then pushed his face in and looked at Dekilleen and Arloes alternately. Who is this mysterious woman? I came running when I received a report that you had been kidnapped. Were you having an affair all along? The moment he raised an eyebrow, she sensed her own end. One word from Dekilleen here, and her head would be crushed like a watermelon by Zeit's fist. That snake-like bastard's come all the way here. All she could do was stare at him in the rearview mirror and blame herself for hastily following his will. Is this an affair? Zeit asked. Arloes had always contemplated whether she was a puppet or the main body. However, she had never hoped so desperately to be a puppet as she did this time. Dekilleen, however, replied, She doesn't fit my standards. Uttered something strange for the 2nd time today. She's just a passerby I met on the way. She heard his words loud and clear, but it took some time for her to understand them. A passerby? Zeit asked for clarification. Yes, her car passed by chance, so I asked her to accompany me. Arloes couldn't understand his intentions, but before he said anything else, he got out of the car. Now that you're here, I may let her go. Oh ho ho, She's a beautiful woman, though. It would be a shame to send her away like this. It looks like some of our knights are already in love." At Zeit's words, Arlo simply smiled bitterly, that crazy 2M10CM bastard. "Hey, open the way." The knights soon cleared the road, allowing her to drive away slowly. As she did, she looked at Dekulin, who was reflected in the side mirror. He was looking back at her, after 5 minutes. Arlo's pulled over to the side for a moment and glanced at the seat where Dekulin had been sitting, holding her breath. There she found a letter and a crystal ball. She looked at the letter first. "Are you aware, Arlos? Although chaos cannot know its shape, that doesn't mean it is an evil existence. Jarek must also be part of that chaos, so I'll leave him to you. Find a better way to deal with him than killing him. Think of this crystal ball as a link between you and me. I think we can be good partners." As she read his handwriting, she narrowed her eyes at it. What does he want? At that moment, she finally felt relieved of the tension that had caused her entire body to tighten up. Psychologically, it was the first time since Zeit that someone pushed her this far. Sharing the same space, a moment, with Dekulin was a burden in itself. I can't figure that guy out. It felt like she was being pulled into the abyss. It was as if amid his overflowing aristocratic dignity, a monster whose size couldn't even be estimated was waiting for prey with its mouth wide open. Not long after, she found a hawk perched on a branch and staring at her. It was a well-made, familiar spirit. I heard there was a report of a kidnapping. Did that guy report it? The moment their gazes met, the bird quickly flew away. Arlo stepped on the accelerator. My plan was simple. After reconstructing the barrier to make it as sturdy as possible, I would provoke Jarek, and while he violently raged around me, I would escape. To that end, I put my faith in my Iron Man and a technique that weakened bullets even a bit. I had no doubts about the former's performance, but that was the first time I learned how powerful a revolver truly was. Had I not woven very faint mana into its muzzle, I could have died. I didn't want to get shot again. After that, I artificially lowered the speed of my blood flow by using Iron Man once more. That allowed me to fall into a near-death state where my heart dangled ever so close to stopping. Even Jarek, the man-eating bear whose rage had swallowed him, wouldn't touch a corpse with many live beings around him. "Do you feel dazed or have a headache, Professor?" It was already 8 a.m. The case I was involved in was finally over. I could finally enjoy a peaceful morning filled with the melodic chirping of birds. I don't. I pushed the doctor away, who was trying to diagnose my head. I didn't want to expose my Iron Man body. Still, it would be better to get a proper diagnosis. Lilia Primian said, observing my checkup. I was currently at the head office of the Public Safety Bureau, Equilium. Deputy Director Primian brought me here in the name of protection and investigation. I'll be fine in a day. Her Majesty also seems concerned, considering she sent her servants here. She shrugged and stepped away. An imperial courtier then appeared behind her and handed me a sealed letter, Primian murmured. "I think she likes you a lot. I'm jealous." "Likes." As I stared at her, she coughed and avoided my gaze. The servant then said, "Your Majesty wants you to read it right away." Okay. I broke the seal, finding only 2 lines. How can someone who calls himself my teacher get kidnapped? If this happens again, you'll have to be prepared to be dismissed from employment. As I put the letter in my pocket, the servant spoke. Moreover, as per Her Majesty's will, an escort knight will be assigned to you to protect you. An escort knight? Yes. Her Majesty's decided that you are worthy of being classified as an individual important enough to be granted national protection for the next 3 months. Primian helped deliver the servant's message. That's right, runes are such powerful magic that many evils are coveting them. In fact, the latest incident was somewhat predictable. If you predicted it, wouldn't you have prevented it? Shouldn't you leave now? Yes, then I'll be going. The imperial courtier bowed and left. I sighed, feeling my head suddenly ache. It would be an insult to the imperial family if I say I don't need it. That's right, Primian replied, causing me to stare at her. Strangely enough, I found every word she uttered disturbing. I'm going. If you leave now, you'll find yourself in a bit of trouble. Don't worry. I ignored her words and stood up. I still felt a bit dizzy, but I'd recover soon anyway. Riding the elevator in the hallway, Primian, who followed me to guide me, pressed the first floor button, ding. Exiting the machinery and reaching the lobby, I swiftly came to understand what she meant about finding myself in a bit of trouble if I left now. "Ah, Professor, are you okay? Thank God. You don't know how worried I was. How dare some coward do that to you?" Instead of ministers, many merchants and entrepreneurs gathered in the reception area. Pretending to be concerned, they asked the information they wanted most seemed to be the contents of Emperor Sophian's letter. "Thank you for your concern. Now, everyone, I'll have to excuse myself." I answered appropriately and headed out. In the parking lot, I found Roy waiting with a new car. "Master, are you okay?" "I'm fine, don't worry." "That's fortunate." I went to the back seat of the car. As I sat down, I noticed something strange. The seat next to me wasn't empty. Looking at the person occupying it, I found a knight in light armor. "What are you doing here?" Was I in the wrong car? I tilted my head, and the knight, sitting still, said, "I'm on a mission." "What mission?" Only then did the knight turn to me, her eyes reflecting me. "I am Professor de Killian's escort, knight, Julie." Her words made me speechless. At that moment, I imagined the Emperor smiling mischievously. All I could do was sigh. Clack. The passenger's door opened not long after. Uriel came in. "I'm here. Can you tell me what happened, huh?" As soon as she sat down, she abruptly stopped speaking and looked at Julie with surprise in her eyes instead. "Who are you?" "Uriel, you." Her eyebrows furrowed. Julie answered, "Starting today, I'm Professor de Killian's escort knight." "Escort knight?" "Yes." Her Majesty herself assigned this task to me. "No, seriously, what are you talking about?" Uriel's face distorted. Uriel thought about asking what happened. She even thought about asking if he had any injuries. However, what dawned upon her was nothing short of a nonsensical reality. Looking at him, it seemed as though nothing really happened. She even found it funny how he was finally acting like a brother to her. Even though he had given up his position as the family head, that didn't mean their relationship had been restored. In fact, at this moment, she thought she had learned his reason for doing so to some extent, Julie. It was probably because of that girl. Through the rearview mirror, Uriel glared at Julie, the knight guarding him like a stone statue. She was too sincere and serious. Tusk. Sometimes she found herself wondering how such a dull, rigid, and savvy woman could capture the insensitive and sharp de Killian. However, she just couldn't understand why he fell in love with her. "Since you're his escort, does that mean you're going to be staying in his mansion as well?" "Yes." "What?" That startled her. On the other hand, in her official execution mode, Julie remained emotionless and firm. "This is the first order issued to the private knights since Her Majesty took the throne. This mission will remain active for 3 months, and we must stay near him until then." "Why do you have to be in his mansion, though?" Her Majesty ordered it herself. "I would appreciate it if you could give me the smallest room. My home is too far from my protectee. If I were to stay there, I wouldn't be able to ascertain his safety." "That's absurd. In the past, even when I asked you if we could live together, you hastily refused." "What is this?" de Killian swiftly replied. "Uriel, be quiet. Aren't we members of the same family? This is ridiculous." She softly muttered as she looked out the window, finding a certain hawk in the sky seemingly circling around the vehicle they were in. "Is that one chasing us?" Nothing seemed to go in Uriel's favor that day. Chapter 77, Cohabitation 2. The Altar, a secret society aiming to resurrect the god who died in ancient times, was based in a sanctuary at the Fear east of the continent, where new life didn't grow. They dedicated their lives solely to the return of the fallen god, their purpose, never doubting their beliefs and faith. To that end, they were willing to sacrifice even their own lives. This was caused by the intermediary that brought them together. A dream. It came down like a revelation to them one day. Believers each received the same grace and moved to the attainment of the same goal. As fanatics of God's calling, they cultivated a proud religion for his future advent. God. That was why the altar wanted de Killian's runes. Their deity wanted the knowledge in his head. He appeared in their dreams and directly appointed them to that task. Is that professor walking a different path from his father? However, de Killian rejected the altar's offer. It was a completely different attitude from the previous Eucline head. Feats and honor. The factors their family held as their priority had to have been those two. I'm not sure. I don't even know if he wants to monopolize the runes. It doesn't matter. We need them. If we learn the language of the runes, we'll gain the ability to communicate with him. With that knowledge, more devout service was possible, which in turn could accelerate his advent. Let's keep an eye on the professor. We need the information he has, and he won't be able to refuse to negotiate forever. For now, contact the demon-blooded people. The altar found Deucalion's actions strange. They didn't know why he defended those who carried demon blood in their veins. He could have just done that out of human intentions, but they had no way to know. All they could do was use that fact thoroughly. Got it. The Empire was already aware of their organization's existence. The officials were happily taking bribes right now, but they knew they thought of them as nutcases deep down. Thus, the altar knew what they had to say. We defend the demon-blooded people as well. That one line would suffice. The rest was up to those who hadn't been swallowed by madness. Eucline Mansion. Zeit, wearing a suit, was waiting in the front yard garden that Julie and I came to. "Oh, you're here, Tilda," he approached us with a smile. "Professor Deucalion. It's nice to see you again. You too, Julie?" "I'm on a mission right now. Please refrain from speaking privately." Julie gave her big brother a serious look, to which Zeit simply skimmed over before looking at my car. "Whoa, that's new. It's big enough even for me to ride. I like the car you had before more, though." "Is that so?" "Yeah, I mean, this one's weird. Its design seems more advanced and modern." Perhaps it was because Midas's hand hadn't been used on it yet. Zeit's 5 senses could clearly discern even the faintest attribute, after all. "That aside, I heard you met the altar members." His voice grew as sharp as a dagger, his gaze as focused as a beast. "Yes. They wanted my knowledge about the runes." The altar gradually revealed itself to the player as they played the game, but the named characters already knew of them. Some were cooperative enough with them to make deals with them and accept their bribes, but many, like Zeit, despised such an organization with every fiber of their being. I knew they would. It wouldn't hurt to tear their jaws apart with my bare hands and drag out their intestines. "You'll break the car?" Uriel tapped his hand as he rubbed the windowsill unknowingly, causing him to back away laughing. "Oh, I'm sorry. I sometimes forget the strength my body holds. This is why cars can't be used on the battlefield. If I push them just a bit, they easily get sent flying." "The car isn't the problem here, it's your physique." "Is it? Oh, sister-in-law, is this car brand new?" "I'm not an in-law yet, but yes, it is." "Whoa, how much was it?" Zeit looked pleased. Uriel replied, 300,000 elnes. "Do you want to buy one?" "If it's your request, you wouldn't have to draw a numbered ticket." "Ha ha ha, no thanks. That's expensive," he laughed, causing her to pout. "More importantly, will you be staying for the night today, too?" "No, now that I've confirmed it's the altar's doing, I'm done here." "If I stay, I might get in the way of your dating business." He raised an eyebrow slyly, to which Julie growled like an enraged tiger. "Oh, speaking of business, I heard you've also started one yourself, Uriel." "Come on, why did you have to say that?" Uriel glanced at me. She probably thought I didn't know about it. On the contrary, however, as soon as she started the business, Ren and Enon immediately reported it to me. "Uriel." Cold sweat formed on her temple. Zeit scratched the back of his neck, expressing his embarrassment. "I guess you decided to create it on your own, huh? I'll just go Tilda." As the giant white bear left, she glared at him while grinding her teeth. "Uriel, the weather is nice today." "Answer me." "I mean, a car business is a bit better than carriages." After stuttering for a moment, she changed her strategy in no time, becoming as blunt as she usually was. "What? It's fancier, and I thought it would be nice to have such a factory in our family's name. The cars the people in Brune Hill make are also extremely cheap." They came to me, saying bullshit like, "I'll give you the car for Deucalion, but your car is over-reserved, Miss Uriel." "Can you believe that?" She let out a sigh and tapped her chest, then slowly looked up at my face. "So, I'm saying I'm going to make some cars. There are many mines in our factory's vicinity to supply it with materials. Go for it. I don't know why you only thought of starting this now." Her jaw dropped at that moment. That expression of hers alone told me what she was thinking. Manufacturing business is something only lowly beings do. Something like that. There's a guy suitable for that job at the hardware store I invested in. I'll send him to Hadecane and I'll make the design today. Start with that. A hardware store? You. Me. As I narrowed my eyes at her, Uriel covered her mouth. I'll be going then. She left hastily. In response to Julie's request for the smallest room, I gave her the smallest room at the mansion. However, since it was literally a room to welcome guests, it had facilities including a toilet, bathroom, and a dressing room. You can use this. It's 2. This is the smallest room we have. Don't look down on the Eucline's hospitality. I wouldn't tolerate anything below this level of comfort for my guests. Okay. Julie put her luggage on the bed silently. You didn't strike me as an old-fashioned woman. I smiled as I looked at what she bought. In this era where handbags, backpacks, and even suitcases had been invented, she brought a bundle wrapped in cloth. Oh, even if it looks like that, it is a magical item. It's equivalent to 2 to 3 bags. I bought it really cheap 4 years ago. Her voice was full of pride. Seeing her smile, I thought she was reminded of the moment she bought it. I used my amazing bargaining skills back then. The merchant offered 5,000 elnies, and I'm not interested. Does the execution of official duties last 24 hours a day? Yes. Evenings are the most dangerous time of each day. I doubt their attacks would stop after just one attempt. I agree, but the second one could be a year later. If we're going to be together all year, we should just get married. The official length of this mission is only 3 months. She opened her bundle while avoiding my eyes. Certainly there were quite a few things in it. Take this. I held out a crystal ball the size of a coin. Julie tilted her head. What is it? A crystal ball linked to the barrier of this mansion. If an intruder comes, you'll be the first to know. It's also imbued with a communication function, so you can always talk to the security team in the basement. Oh, Tilda, there are so many amazing things in this world. She nodded and tried to take it, but I withdrew it before she could. However, you are too clumsy. What? What do you mean? How am I clumsy? Julie's eyebrows furrowed. I softened my golden tie pins and turned them into a necklace, then threaded it with the crystal ball. Afterward, I tried to hang it around her neck. Surprised, she made a gesture of resistance, but soon accepted my advances as soon as she heard my reasoning. You said you lost the ring I gave you last time. Rather than losing it, she most likely threw it away. I smiled, but my face soon hardened. Why did I have this memory? Misunderstanding my expression, she bowed her head without a word. I was a bit disconcerted, so I just tapped her on the shoulder and walked out. Leaning against the hallway's wall, I ruffled my hair. It's clear. I slid a ring onto Julie's finger, which she didn't want to receive, so forcibly that it looked like I almost broke her finger. She just kept her mouth shut throughout the process, but her eyes were welling up with tears. These memories weren't mine, but they felt as if they were. Gosh. I knocked and opened the door to her room again, finding her in the middle of unpacking. She looked back at me with a slumped posture. What? She left her luggage half unpacked on her bed, a stuffed doll among them. When my gaze fell on it, Julie let out a little squeal. She grabbed the panda's head and hid it behind her back. It's for luck. It's like a jinx. Each night is one. This is the key to your room. Always keep it locked. I might come in unannounced otherwise. As I gave her the key, Julie's face turned red, but her expression remained knightly and solemn while she received it. Thank you. Or should I also hang this key around your neck? It's okay, now get out. Julie pushed my back, and after being kicked out, I stood in the hallway smiling. Humph! The sound of dissatisfaction soon pierced my ears like needles. I turned around, finding Uriel. You're enjoying this so much, Tilda, didn't you go back already? What? You told me you'd be making the design. Design? Car design? Oh, right, follow me. I nodded and walked down the hallway with her, who kept whispering to herself. Her smile made me feel disgusted, almost as if I was looking at a curved centipede. However, I hoped she would smile like that a lot more frequently. You're noisy. I went to the library, took out a piece of paper and a fountain pen, and drew a design based on my modern knowledge and aesthetic sense. It was by no means a blueprint since I only designed it. I left its technical parts to the nerds. Take it. Why are there two? One's a car and the other's a watch. A watch? Why a watch? She glanced at my waist. Your pocket watch is still in good condition. If you're not planning on using it anymore, can I have it? Leave it to my hardware store clerk. They will do well. Hump. Well then. As she turned around with the designs in her arms, Uriel stopped. Can I really start a business, though? You're not going to say something weird about this again later on, are you? No, but if you fail, you'll be caned. Who said I would let you? She gave me a piercing gaze, then went out of the study. Asterisk, asterisk, the next day, I went to work at the tower and submitted my plans for the final exam. It's pretty ordinary. The chairman's eyes widened as soon as she looked at the documents. It's very different from your last test. Is there a problem with that? Not really, no, but it probably won't have the same ripple effect as last time. It won't be as ordinary as you think. She put the plan in the drawer with a dissatisfied expression on her face, then pulled out another document. Oh, right. I've checked your first ever approved project as the planning and financial coordination head. I see. It costs a lot of money. The initial fund it's asking for is 10 million elnies, which is crazy. It will result in an excellent return of investment. The chairman glared at me with slightly narrowed eyes but soon muttered, "It's your responsibility anyway," and got up. Good, now then, come with me. Let's take a look at Julie, your bodyguard. As expected, you already know. What do you mean, as expected? The rumors have already spread all over the empire. I went into the elevator with her. As we arrived on the first floor, we found Julie waiting. Several Fraham knights were most likely also deployed to certain points around me. Oh, Knight Julie, you look beautiful today. She didn't answer. I explained the reason to the confused chairman. They don't speak during official duties. At that moment, the chairman smiled slyly. Is that so? She turned around, stood next to Julie, and, after warming up her mouth with a cough, "It's been a long time, Julie. Nice to see you again." It's been 2 weeks, started talking nonstop. If this happened in the past, you would have rejected this mission. Even though it's in the Emperor's name, you wouldn't have stepped forward on your own. You took it now, though. Even the world finds it amazing. Rumors went around so fast. Is it okay to say that you two have now completely reconciled? No, I think you already did. If so, will the marriage proceed as planned this time around? This is amazing. They say silence means you agree with it. You must have been very worried about the professor. To escort him personally like this. Gosh, my ears are going to explode. I laughed silently at Julie's cry. The final exam would start next week. Because of that, the atmosphere of the entire university, including the Knights department, grew extremely tense. The library was filled with people, and the restaurant, which used to close at 9 p.m., kept its services open around the clock. The wizards ceaselessly studied for self-improvement, and for their exams while also peeking at the opportunity to keep others in check. Anyway. Today, the final exams for Deculine's Understanding Pure Elements class would be announced. The value of the final exam of a 5-credit lecture was obviously high. Hence, Eferen decided to go to the classroom 30 minutes before the announcement. Whoa. Seemingly thinking like her, 140 out of 150 of the class population were already present. Sitting down, she decided to study while waiting. At exactly 3 o'clock in the afternoon, Assistant Professor Allen came in. Nobody could claim he wasn't Head Professor Deculine's assistant at this point. Nice to meet you. This paper is an overview of the final exam. Everyone will be given a copy. You must be careful not to lose it. Tilda smiling, he began handing the document out. What kind of test will it be this time? Phew. Eferen took a deep breath and looked at its contents. As soon as she did, she blinked. After turning it over, she looked at the other debutantes. It was a natural reaction. All of them in the classroom were behaving like Eferen. You're dismissed. The final exam will start on Monday in 3 weeks. Allen left them with those words, but Eferen's doubts remained. She became even more confused since the assistant professor, who was supposed to solve her doubts, had already exited the room. What is this? Eferen muttered, staring at the paper. There was literally nothing in it. Asterisk, asterisk, Sylvia came out of the tower and, looking at the paper she was given, pondered about it. No matter how she looked at it, it remained empty. It was just plain white paper. It left her wondering what she should do with it. The assistant professor told them not to lose it, which could be a clue in itself. But was this paper really that important? Could this be the test itself? As she walked in silence, Sylvia stumbled upon the nepotistic, cheeky, stupid idiot Efren. She was lying on the lawn and looking at her paper. Holding it high in the sky, she turned it vertically, then horizontally, the sun's rays remaining reflected on it. Seemingly finding no answer, she grabbed it, then trembled, almost as if she had been electrocuted. Stupid. Sylvia twisted her lips contemptuously while attempting to pass by her, but she soon had a sudden thought. Should I tear hers apart? That might cause Efren to be eliminated. Forget it. Sylvia shook her head. There was no guarantee that ripping her paper would unconditionally benefit her. Even if there was, she didn't want to even think of doing anything that wasn't noble. At that moment, however, rip! The sound of paper being torn apart startled her. She didn't know who did it, but it was certainly a surprise. Who? When she looked over at Efren, she found her paper neatly cut in half. Her eyes grew so wide they looked like they were about to pop out. Sylvia laughed involuntarily. As if trying to deny reality, Efren squeaked with only her mouth open. Who did this? In an instant, her behavior turned into that of a provoked wild boar. What kind of... Sylvia found her yells both funny and pitiful. What kind of mean basta-ard? She should have known better than to sit near the tower and flaunt her paper out in the open. After all, wizards were cold-blooded individuals that would dig into their target's weaknesses far quicker and far more brutal than any other. Sighing, Sylvia walked over to the idiot. Chapter 78. The editors and translators have forwarded some notes with this chapter, and I've rewritten and condensed it below. Alan is a male assistant professor. However, from chapters 30 to 31 in the train assault arc, Deucalion felt that his hand felt odd, etc., and had noticed other clues in their day-to-day. Alan's true gender is female. Basically, going forward, if it's in the perspective of Deucalion, first-person POV, Alan is referred to as a female since he knows her true gender. However, if it's anyone else referring to her, or if in a dialogue between people, she is referred to as a male since they themselves don't know her identity. As of late, the nuance of the way Deucalion has been talking to Alan could infer that she is a female, which is why we've gone ahead and changed the pronouns. That, and the fact that this ain't no BL novel, boys, your boy Active's got you. What makes this super confusing is that the Korean language literally doesn't use gender pronouns. So in addition to the author's superb fantasy world naming sense, his complicated writing style, the nondescriptive nature of Korean fiction, namely with character descriptions, having multiple soul puppets with different genders from their host, and now a character disguised in the opposite gender, it's been hard to be completely accurate. The only way for us to do so is to read 20 to 50 chapters ahead for context, which is impossible with our current budget. Anyways, we might add a few sentences in the earlier chapters to localize and provide context to the transition of the pronouns over time. Pig's Flour, a famous restaurant near the Imperial University. I'll kill him. Sylvia stared at her fellow debutante, finding how she exploded in rage while ripping the Rohawk apart funny. I'll find him and kill him no matter what. She hadn't found who tore apart her paper yet, and perhaps she would never know. There were so many people nearby at the time. Stupid Efren. Turning her head, she glared at Sylvia, bitter tears welling up in her fierce eyes. You won't be able to do anything even if you knew who did it. Your paper won't revert to its original state. Did you come to mock me? Laughing disdainfully, Sylvia pulled out her own paper, making Efren envious. Woong, Sylvia's barrier wrapped around the dining table. Assistant Professor Allen told us not to lose this paper, but she didn't tell us the exam location. Did you figure something out? No, not yet. How was this paper related to what they had learned so far? Although it was dodgy, Sylvia believed in Deucalion and his lectures. If you haven't figured out anything yet, lightly glancing at her, Efren hesitantly brought up a proposal. Do you want to team up? We did the group project together anyway. You remember, right? Stupid Eferen. What? I'll be a great help. I'm second only to you, you know. She put the piece of Rohawk down, which clearly showed how desperate she was. Nevertheless, Sylvia shook her head. You don't have a paper, I do. Who doesn't know that? Perhaps cases like you will be more frequent. We do still have 3 weeks for the exam. Sigh, I want to cry. She sniffed and pulled a handkerchief from her pocket. Trying to look pitiful, she wiped tears off her eyes, but Sylvia was far too focused on the cloth she took out to notice. Sylvia recalled the handkerchief Dechilline gave her, which she then used to decorate her with. The pattern it had was the same as the one in Eferen's hands. You. Her body moved on its own, hurriedly grabbing Eferen's wrist, making her flinch. What? Where did you get this? This H handkerchief? Yeah, that's a secret. Eferen firmly shook her head, but Sylvia surprisingly insisted. Tell me. Why should I? Eferen frowned. Why did she care about it? Was it because the handkerchief was too luxurious? Whoa, is this a luxury treasure even the Iliad family can't easily get? If you tell me, I might let you join me in the exam. I'll buy you Rohawks during the test period. That made Eferen think. Her sponsor's identity was anonymous anyway. It wouldn't be a betrayal if she just told her that she was sponsored. It really wasn't because of the free Rohawk. Maybe it was, but just a little. However, she had to keep her grades up if she wanted to see her sponsor's face. Eferen glanced at Sylvia. I didn't steal it. Do you believe me? If you didn't, then where did you get it? She answered shortly after hesitating a bit. It's a gift from a sponsor. Sponsor? Sylvia's eyebrows scrunched as she clenched her hand hidden under the table. Yeah. I received a sponsorship. I didn't even know I would. You're sponsored. Yes, Tilda, I didn't even think I could get one. That's all I know, though. It's an anonymous sponsorship. I think it would be disrespectful to dig into it. Why did you suddenly ask, though? Did you see this handkerchief somewhere? Eferen's eyes were widening with curiosity, and Sylvia's eyes narrowed. No, it just doesn't suit you. Gosh. Anyway, I told you what I know, so we're doing it together, right? Sylvia cut the meat in front of her without saying anything as she looked into her face intently. Her expression was as vague as always, revealing nothing that was in her mind. She didn't even smile. Her stiff, mask-like face was initially unpleasant to look at, but... I'll accept your silence as your approval, okay? Now it wasn't as bad. Eferen began to cheer up. Sylvia looked at her, seemingly out of spite, as she put a piece of meat into her mouth. Julie held a cup of coffee in a cafe near the tower. From now to midnight, Dechilline had to check a thesis in the lab. It was a momentary break. No matter how strong of a gut they had, the altar wouldn't commit a kidnapping in the university tower, and she knew better than to interfere in Professor Dechilline's personal time to study. Time flies so fast. Looking at the campus outside the window reminded her of the old days. If she walked a little further, she'd find the Knights Training Center. A bit further than that, and she'd stumble upon the Knights Square, and even further, the grand main building of the Imperial Order. The Imperial Order, which all knights on the continent regarded as a dream. She had a history of working in that hall of fantasy, but now it was all in the past. She couldn't go back, and she couldn't turn time around. Julie! Her eyes immediately looked in the direction where she heard her name coming from. So you were here. At the cafe's entrance, she found Gwen, Raphael, and Sirio smiling at her as they approached her. Did you come to observe the night's exams? Julie asked. Yeah, that too. The encounter made Julie happy, but Gwen scratched the back of her neck, looking apologetic. Well, I don't have much to say. Here, take it. She gave her a letter, the Imperial seal on it surprising her. Oh, this is about the mission from last time, isn't it? Yeah, but I think you're on a different task now. It's fine. This one involves Professor Dechilline, too. At Julie's words, Gwen looked more mysterious. She rejoiced like a child. Participating in an important mission was also one of the dreams of a true knight, but... Read it. Yep. She vigorously answered as she opened it, only for its very first sentence to destroy her expectations that had been accumulating. Non-disclosure of secrets pledge. Non-disclosure of secrets. Julie looked at Gwen as if waiting for an explanation, seemingly unable to understand what it meant. Her fellow knight sighed. Dechilline's condition for his participation is your removal from this task. What? He's doing it instead of you, not with you? She read the letter without saying anything. Eunuch Jalang's words were more concise, which basically told her, Dakilin is worried about his fiancée, so you're out. Just don't tell others about this mission. Julie? She remained silent for quite a long moment, looking as if she didn't know what to do. After showing a vivid expression, she gripped the letter in her hand, causing it to crumple. Is this true? Yeah, Dakilin's the worst, isn't he? Gwen smiled bitterly. Instead of listening to her, Julie rolled her tongue in her mouth, her cheeks puffing up one at a time. It was a habit that came out whenever she was really angry. Why? Dakilin knows about your injury, Raphael replied. Looking at him, she found him standing behind Gwen with his arms crossed. My injury? Julie asked. Gwen nodded. Yeah, he knows you haven't completely recovered yet. That you pretended to be. They said the Imperial Palace's basement is filled with mana. With your current state, joining this mission would be like walking into a sea of poison, wouldn't it? She got that injury during a mission. At the time, she almost died, but she had overcome it now. At least, that was what she had been thinking. Dakilin eliminated you from teaching the Emperor because of that, too. It seems he discovered it as soon as he felt your mana. Well, he is the head professor, after all. Gwen then continued, murmuring. He told me not to tell you, but what does he know? Screw him, Tilda. Maybe he knew it would harm your career if the Imperial Palace were to learn of your predicament, so he's trying to hide it in his own way for you, and without telling you. Julie knew that all too well. Due to the nature of her injury, if it got worse, the Guardian Knight position would grow even farther away. Dakilin has a reputation for disliking eunuchs, especially Jalang, but he still took the mission in your stead. Well, that was only proper. You were injured because of that bastard in the first place. The relationship between the Ukline family and eunuchs couldn't be any worse. They weren't the only ones. Prestigious, high-ranking families often quarreled and argued with them, but of them all, Freyden and Ukline fought against them the hardest. Anyway, this is only until you get better. If we fail the mission, we'll wait until you get better. That would mean it would be impossible without you. Right, Tilda Sirio interrupted in the back. Gwen glared at him and he immediately stepped back, grunting. I can't even say anything? Yes, all right, I understand, now go back. When Julie asked them to leave, Gwen and the others hesitated for a moment but followed her wish in the end. Left alone, she placed her hand below her collarbone, feeling a clear lump. Just touching it caused her to feel a burning pain. She thought she had overcome it, but it had been slowly reviving in the recent days. Did you know about it this time too? Julie thought about Dakilin. There was a time when she couldn't estimate the size of her love for him. That huge affection tied her up and weighed down her mind. Its effects on her weren't much different from violence. That was how he pushed her. Now, however, he had definitely changed so clearly it was almost unbelievable. Of course, others said it was all acting. Rayleigh, Rockfell, and the rest said she shouldn't be fooled. It's acting? Oh, a loud voice startled her. She trembled, making her look like she was vibrating. Or is it? The university tower chairman smiled at her. Was I talking to myself out loud? No, it's the mind-reading skill I developed. Of course, others say that he's acting. I just heard that part. Julie's eyes widened. TTH, that's rude. How dare you read someone's mind? Ag, why do you have to yell? I didn't know it would work either. You scared my baby. Your baby. Only then did Julie notice the leash in her hand, which was attached to a small, fluffy puppy. Are you okay, Orm Spartans Adrian Roman 2? Woof, woof, he said. He got scared. Julie just looked at the puppy blankly. Oh, okay. Panting, it opened its mouth, smiled, and stuck its tongue out. It looked so cute she thought it'd take away her soul. The chairman, looking at her, asked, do you like dogs? Yes. Oh, that I do. No, I'm on a mission. Hoo-hoo. The chairman laughed and put Orm Spartans Adrian Roman 2 on Julie's knees, causing her to blush in an instant. When the puppy barked, her stiffened face melted. However, the next moment, Julie hurriedly released her mana. Stop it. I'm serious. The chairman used her mind-reading magic to see through her again. Gosh, I won't do it, so buy me a cup of coffee. Ah, Tilda, it feels like the times when I walked through this campus as a student was just yesterday. Julie pretended to be distracted. The chairman, fixing her gaze outside the window, ordered a cup of coffee herself. Asterisk tick, tock. The clock struck midnight, but I was still checking magic in the lab. I'm stuck. The idea that Ephraim's father had devised. The research I spent the longest time in this world, resulting in around 3,000 pages. A wall blocked that magic development research. I looked at the documents-filled table. This magic paper filled with formulas, magic circles, operations, and logic was concrete and systematic. However, the biggest problem was that I lacked the enormous talent, and Mana needed to realize this idea's final knot. Of course, Mana Stone's static mana could serve as supplements to a certain level. However, there was nothing I could do with my lack of talent. It was painful. This study required talent in all 4 elements. However, Deculine only had 2 elements, earth and fire. Tusk. I had Iron Man, but my head throbbed. Was it because I shot my skull with a revolver 3 days ago? I'm done for today. Since there wasn't much I could do about it right now, I lifted the research data with psychokinesis, stored them all in a safe, and came out of the lab. As I was about to get in the elevator, Alan's office came into my eyes. Assistant Professor Allen. It was a small room in the corner of the 77th floor. It still had light coming from inside it. I approached it slowly and knocked on the door. Ugh. Alan, sleeping on the desk, woke up. She looked tired. Ugh, Yaustay ed to late. What brings you out her? What? Yaustayed, I mean it's late, Professor. Were you waiting for me? Oh, I thought it wouldn't be polite to leave first, I laughed. Alan scratched her head. Let's leave together then. Oh, okay, wait. I'll bring the journal. She ran somewhere. I looked around her office, finding well-organized documents, diaries she had been writing since he became an assistant, student records, syllabuses, report cards, and so on in dustless bookshelves. It was a neat and orderly room, and the air in here itself seemed clean. It could even be called a systematized warehouse, not an assistant office. But that wasn't what I thought was most important. There weren't even a bit of Alan's traces here, the owner of this place. Not even her scent or footprints. It wasn't just here. In my office and the entire university tower, her traces were carefully hidden. Perhaps it was something similar to occupational diseases. Before leaving, she erased her tracks. I didn't know what exactly her job was, though. I guess it's almost over. That made me realize. It wouldn't be long before Alan's departure. I saw a book on her desk. It was my gift, Eucline. Understanding Pure Elements Revised. It seemed like she was studying hard, but many question marks were on many of its pages. Fortunately, I found them in the second half of the book, not the basic process, Professor. Alan had returned. Please look at this. I made another one. It should be a bit better this time. The document she showed me was a list of wizards that wanted to be under my command. Although it was better than the last time, I still wasn't satisfied. Sliding the document in my pocket, I looked at her. Alan. Yes. We're now at the end of the semester. This is an important time for you too. This period was valuable and hectic for anyone in the tower. No one would show interest if someone disappeared, so there wouldn't be a better time to leave. Oh, right, Tilda, but I'm fine. I'm still overwhelmed with the assistant professor job, she answered with a smile. That look was all too familiar to me, but it felt a bit arrogant. How much longer did she intend to hide? How many years were you with me? Ever since you became the head professor? I see. What kind of opportunity had she been aiming for since then? Did she want to kill me or just observe me? I didn't know her purpose, but since she was about to leave, it would mean she had already fulfilled it or was about to. I wanted to know what she was thinking. I didn't see a death variable from Alan, but I knew she could just be hiding it. Josephine had also deceived my eyes before, after all. Alan. I carefully recited her name and put my hands on her shoulder. Thank you for everything. That short phrase, as if to suggest farewell, caused her eyes to widen. What? The moonlight that flowed through the window gave her expression light and dark shades. At that moment, her emotions were revealed. I saw pure surprise and sudden questions. Nothing more than that. My words were meant to test her. Well, if this were enough to reveal her true intentions, I would have caught her from the beginning. The other day, I told you that you passed the test. Oh, right. Alan placed her hand on top of each other on her chest. You told me my sincerity made me pass the test when you gave me the position of assistant professor, but you also said there was still the next phase. If the first phase was sincerity, The next is trust. Trust. When she looked like she had fallen deep in her thoughts, I put one hand on her shoulder. "Alan, you got my faith?" "Huh?" Her surprise became evident on her puffed cheeks, her hidden emotions surfacing through their redness. "I can't let you, whom I trust, be an assistant forever." "Does that mean, starting next semester, I think you can be a professor?" Alan's eyes welled up with tears. I didn't know which part of her was sincere or false, but it was exactly because of that I put her on my side, adhering to a proverb I once heard before. "Keep your friends close, but your enemies closer." However, if Alan turned out to be my enemy, I would be a bit disappointed, so this wasn't much different from persuading her not to be. "So I hope you trust me as well." I wiped her tears with my hand that had a glove on, leaving transparent droplets on the black leather clinging against my skin. "Remain on this tower." Alan's expression sank slowly. I didn't know if that showed her surprise, or if it simply revealed what was hidden underneath her facade. "I will allow it." I didn't even have any way to know that. Nevertheless, I met her eyes as the moon hid behind the clouds. "Just stay next to me." A system message covered her face. "The villain's fate. Death variable avoided. Acquired reward. Store currency +2. Chapter 79. Alan pretended to go home, but she returned to the assistant professor's office, a peaceful and cozy space on the 77th floor. There were 3 bookshelves to its right and a table big enough to fit a typewriter, a pencil, and a thick course book at the end. D'Quilleen had already left, leaving her alone with the starlights from the sky. As she habitually swept and wiped her dark office, Alan had an unusual feeling. It was strange. Was it because she had stayed by his side for so long already? No, she noticed it relatively recently. Exhausted by D'Quilleen's tyranny and paranoid perfectionism, everyone left him. Alan was the only one left. She wasn't expecting to notice anything in the first place, so it was even weirder. While she was with him, she studied magic, read books, prepared classes, and taught students. She lived like an ordinary assistant, almost as if she wanted to have this life since forever. Closing her eyes, she recalled his words, "You got my faith." His voice seemed to comfort her for all her hard work. D'Quilleen said that, but he didn't know her truth. He didn't know she was far from someone he could trust. Alan wasn't even her real name, "Stay by my side," D'Quilleen's last request. She thought of herself answering him. "Yes, of course," she said. Alan slowly opened her eyes, muttering, looking at the distant sky. "It's been a long time since I saw someone as mysterious as you." She thought it was right for him to die at first. She just considered him as a noble with a mental illness, someone unskilled that she could easily break if she moved her fingertip. But he changed, seemingly out of the blue, and showed his real side. He was always externally cold, but the warmth Alan felt from him for the first time was more brilliant than any flames she had seen. Finding it interesting, she unknowingly saved him from death. The Burkt trained terrorism and Veron attack. Alan watched all of it and broke Veron's wrist herself. "But I don't think I can keep your trust." Slowly, cracks slithered through the darkness of the night. The light of dawn had revealed itself. The sun was rising. I have been on this mission for too long. There weren't many sunrises left that she could see as Alan. Before long, she would leave the world she was immersed herself in every day. She shouldn't feel sorry. She shouldn't even have such emotion. I have become familiar with Alan as well. Alan rested her forehead on the window, feeling the cold air that penetrated the room as she scrunched her nose. A sunny midsummer weekend. Julie enjoyed an uncommon laze. The subject of her mission was safe. Her work as a Fraham knight was relatively easy today, and she had already finished her morning training. Whoa! She played with the attendants in the lounge of the mansion. The room was full of all kinds of advanced items and a variety of board games, but what attracted her interest the most was the object known as a radio. "Isn't this a crystal ball? How does it have sounds?" "Oh, the radio. We found it amazing when we first saw it too. I think there's a monostone collector plate inside. I don't know the details, but basically it has 13 channels, and depending on which frequency you set it to, you'll be able to hear what's broadcasting in each of them." Monostone collector plates. Frequency. Channel. Broadcast. It was the first time she heard all of those words. That's amazing. Can I listen to the horseback battles relay with this? Its price was over 5,000 elnies, and it only had about a year of life, but it was like an exclusive property of the bourgeois. Still, these days, imperial media companies were beginning to open their own channels. Yes, you can listen to it without having to buy a ticket. You can't watch it, though. The puppy, raised by the Empire's citizens together, on Julie's lap looked at it in admiration as well. Knock, knock. The door opened, revealing Deculine's direct secretary, Wren, who just returned from a business trip. Night, Julie. You have a schedule now. Oh, okay. Julie quickly refined her outfit and prepared for her mission. Her armor was her casual wear, so she didn't need to change into something else. The sun was already at its peak when I arrived in Ainz. The first on today's schedule was the cutting ceremony of the underground passage. How did you think of a train passage that runs underground? Ha ha ha. I can't help but always admire Professor Deculine's discernment. Many people had already gathered at the entrance to the underground passage, all of them renowned in the business world. I welcomed them with Uriel. The underground passage was Deculine's idea, but it was my idea to build a shopping district. Uriel smiled calmly, her hands on her chest. The chatter stopped. Everyone glanced at me and held their breaths. That's right, I answered with a smile of my own. I see. As expected from Professor Deculine's sister. Right, that brightness comes from the genes of the family? That's right. This event was by no means simply social in nature. It was also political, which was made evident by their suspicions about my relationship with Uriel. Now then. Let's start the cutting ceremony, Tilda. Uriel hesitantly held a pair of scissors. We all watched her cut the tape at the entrance of the passageway. Clap, 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 clap. Its opening was welcomed with cheers and applause. They requested for me to go through the passage together with them, but I shook my head. The rest was up to her. I'm quite busy today, unfortunately. Uriel will provide you with more information regarding this business. It's under her jurisdiction anyway. Now, if you'll excuse me. Oh, really? That's a shame. Have fun in Ainz. They looked a bit sad since they looked forward to me staying, but they still rode along the tracks with Uriel. Let's go back. Okay. As Julie and I made our way to the parking lot, Julie noticed someone following us and immediately blocked her. Stop. Reveal your identity before you come any closer. Her tone was heavy, but the mysterious woman remained undaunted as she answered. I'm an investor. She was wearing a suit and a beret. Confirming who she was, I dismissed Julie's worries. It's okay, you can stay inside. What? I have to talk to her privately, so leave. Oh, all right. Julie hesitantly got in the car, but she looked at us from the window. Your head seems to be okay, Arlo said. Al, did you invest in this project? Al, oh, you meant me. Yes, it seemed like a good place to invest in. Arlo shrugged, then began to provide me with information. Zukaken and the altar still haven't given up on you. They probably have many plans in mind. Be careful. And Jarek? Jarek was quite important. Insane named characters were given special treatment in the game. Since they were difficult to deal with, their combat power could be used as a strategic weapon by making it exponentially explode all at once. Jarek will be off the grid for a while. Anyway, the altar is preparing for an attack. That's why I came here. I frowned. Arlo's glanced sideways, covering more of her face with her beret. An attack? I don't know the details. They're trying to move on their own now, so I don't have much intel. However, based on their personalities alone, they'll cause something huge. And the reason being, they're not your run-of-the-mill crazy individuals. No one can understand their insanity-driven minds. Just remember to be alert when you're somewhere crowded. A system message popped in front of me. Sudden event. Storm, you could have said that through a crystal ball. This is safer. After finishing what she had to say, Arlo's immediately left. I got into the car after watching her disappear like a shadow. Let's go to the tower. The second thing on my to-do list was a project inspection. Yes. As Wren stepped on the accelerator, I felt a burning gaze coming from the seat next to me. Glancing sideways, I found Julie staring at me with a rather sullen face. Who was she? When our eyes met, she immediately raised a question she seemingly had been dying to ask. You don't need to know. Julie pouted and sat upright. She answered, "I won't ask because you said I don't need to know." But her sharp gaze continued to glare ahead. Luna worked on her magic project in the lab. With it fully funded, the students who had been with her in her past workplace were sent to her. The Kingdom University Tower was reluctant about this project due to financial problems. But the Planning and Financial Coordination Office head's authorized stamp exerted tremendous power. After she submitted her plan, everything that she had requested was prepared within a week. Naturally, because of that, gossip circulated about her these days. She heard rumors along the lines of Luna became D'Quilline's servant. And no, she's gone beyond that. She became a loyal dog, but she didn't bother denying any of them. Her feelings toward D'Quilline had already eased to some extent anyway. Now, everyone, there's no need to desperately save Mana stones. We're not in the kingdom anymore. Use them to your heart's content. As she encouraged them, the door to the lab opened. The identity of the person standing beyond it startled her. "Professor D'Quilline." "What happened?" "Emergency inspection. It's part of my job as the executive director." D'Quilline looked at the table and the 16 wizards who bowed to him in the lab. Luna stood next to him, crossing her arms. "There's nothing to worry about. I've been preparing this idea for a long time now. We just couldn't execute it because we didn't have the funds, but now that we do, it will definitely pay off." "Are you confident?" "Of course. However, the problem is this project's expenses. We asked for 10 million elnis as our initial budget, but it can increase nearly 20 times that amount." She replied, deliberately inflating the numbers. 2 billion. D'Quilline didn't even blink. Okay, he had no doubts about it. After checking their documents, he left. He displayed, as always, impeccable behavior. His perfectly fine appearance, for some reason, left Luna some mixed feelings. Sighing softly, she followed D'Quilline. After she called his attention, he stopped and looked at her. "Here." She held out a candy-shaped container to him, which made his eyebrows furrow, seemingly finding her sudden gift absurd. "This is Curina candy, the specialty of McQueen's estate. It's only available in the summer and in very small amounts, so it's considered a precious item. It's a product of our estate's filial piety." "So what?" "This small bucket is worth 1,000 elnis, you know. People line up to buy it even at a higher price, and reservations for it are pushed back 3 years. Even with Luna's PR, he didn't even think about receiving it." She forced it into his suit pocket. "If you don't want it, your fiancé will love it, I'm sure. No one can hate this candy." When she mentioned Julie, D'Quilline finally nodded. Luna smiled, took a step back, and waved at him. "Bye." "Okay, it's embarrassing, but I'll take it." He transferred it from his suit pocket to his inner pocket. 30 minutes later, D'Quilline looked at Julie as soon as he got back into the car. "What?" Though still pouting, she remained sharp. He took out Luna's gift in his pocket. "Huh?" As soon as she saw its brand, Julie's face changed. Like a puppy that found a snack, her body suddenly bent forward as she drooled. Her pupils, which had grown in size, followed its every movement as he swung it from side to side. D'Quilline smiled at the amazing effect it had on her. "Where did you get that? It looks delicious." "It's Curina candy." "Do you know about it?" "Of course. It's a candy that never melts, the dream candy for many of us since we were kids." "Right." Opening the lid, he took one out, and Julie immediately put her hands together like a plate and held them out. After he placed it on her palms, she immediately popped it in her mouth. Chomp, chomp, chomp. Her chewing was filled with joy. How delicious was this candy, he smirked. "Sometimes, if you do a good job, I'll give it to you as a reward." After her momentary surprise, Julie began to work on his all-around security detail more passionately than ever. The final exam season of the Imperial University. Exhausted yet still busy undergraduates, wizards, and knights alike littered the campus. It felt like the entire college was engulfed in something profound. Sylvia wasn't. She perfected today's test, yesterday's test, and most likely tomorrow's test as well. Her procession of perfect scores would probably go on forever. Hum. Humming, she pulled out a piece of paper she had kept in her robe's inner pocket. Application. D'Quilline filled out this form last night. D'Quilline said he wouldn't accept it, but the minimum requirement for a full professor examination was 1 year anyway. She wanted to learn from him, even if only for the remaining 6 months. She was also confident she could convince him. "I'm here." "Miss Tilda, you came?" When she returned to the mansion, the attendants greeted her with bright smiles, the change in their atmosphere puzzling her. For some reason, they seemed unctuous. "You've already made friends, and you didn't even tell us, Miss Tilda. What are you talking about? A friend? Since when did she have friends? She never had one in her life." It didn't take long for her to find the reason behind their behavior in the living room. "What's this?" Someone who looked like Ephraim was sleeping on the sofa. Grrr. When she took a closer look, she realized it really was her. She was sleeping, covered with a blanket. Grrr. Unlike this morning, she looked so soft and clean, it made her think she had taken a shower here. Rude Ephraim. Crossing her arms, she glared at her, reminding her of the conversation they had last time. "So the letter your sponsor sent you has a pattern identical to the one on this handkerchief." "Yes, that's how I realized he was watching me. Too bad I couldn't see his face since I was crying so hard while watching the play." Ephraim's handkerchief belonged to Professor de Culleen. If so, it was highly probable he also sponsored her. Sylvia felt immensely irritated and stressed by that fact alone. Why was the professor taking care of her only? Was it because her father committed suicide? Was it really just for that reason? "If he doesn't accept me as an assistant professor, I might reveal it to Ephraim." Whatever it was. Grrr. Ugh. She grabbed Ephraim's nose and bent it from side to side. Ag. Ephraim woke up screaming, and Sylvia straight away wiped her hands. What are you doing? Why are you in someone else's house?" Still, I was sleeping. She tended to her reddened nose, which hurt so much she was in tears. She even thought it was bleeding, but soon realized it had just become runny. Sylvia's eyes narrowed. "Why did you come?" "Paper. I know the secret of this paper." Ephraim's words caused an exclamation mark to pop in her head. "What do you mean you know?" "Phew. Even with such humiliation, anyway, look. Doesn't this look just like a simple piece of paper? But..." While holding it, Ephraim performed pure water elemental magic, drenching Sylvia's paper. "You're dead, idiot Ephraim." Enraged for a moment, Sylvia nearly strangled her, but the shape of the paper soon began to change bizarrely. Ephraim smiled confidently and raised a finger. "Paper is made out of wood, but isn't wood a combination of earth and water?" The wet paper soon spread in all directions and assumed a 3-dimensional map. It was too easy. "Do you know where that place is?" Sylvia nodded. It was the locale forest on the 40th floor, one of the university tower's special floors. The test site was written on this piece of paper. She looked at Ephraim in a new light. While she was taking an exam, she was doing this. She did well turning her into her slave. "Hee, what do you think? Now it's time you buy me that?" Ephraim laughed. "What? You promised. Rohawk?" Sylvia thought it was ridiculous. She promised to treat her during the exams, but she wanted a Rohawk yesterday, the day before, and today. "Gosh, let's all go together today, with the staff of your mansion." "No." Sylvia shook her head, but the attendants, who had been watching them delightedly, suddenly raised their hands. "We don't mind it, Tilda, since it's the request of the young lady's friend Tilda." They smiled and changed their clothes, leaving Sylvia no choice. A promise was a promise, and it was true that Ephraim solved the problem. Even Professor de Culleen would at least do this. "Okay. Great Tilda **** after an hour." Princess Tilda Glython, the head of Iliade, visited Sylvia's empty mansion. He went in calling his daughter, but she was nowhere to be seen, let alone her attendants. Shrugging, he explored the building, only to find it completely empty. Did they all go out? He walked over to Sylvia's door and knocked on it. "Sweetie, are you there?" No answer, no reaction. Scratching the back of his neck, he slowly opened it, finding no one in her room but the doll looking at him from her bed. Well, it's the final exam. He just wanted to make her healthy food. Grumbling, Glython was about to leave when he found a document on his daughter's desk. Is it her report card? After checking for sounds coming from within the mansion, Glython sneaked up to her desk. Swish. Glython was full of interest as he picked the paper up, but his expression slowly hardened the more he read through it. His appearance grew cold. but his emotions blazed like flames. Veins popped out on his hand as he unknowingly crumpled it. Application form. Dequilline I, Sylvia, would like to volunteer to study under Professor Dequilline. I am the only one among 150 debutantes to receive the perfect score in Professor Dequilline's midterm exam. Impossible. He returned it where he found it. Its crumpled parts straightened once more as if nothing happened, unlike his expression, which remained dark and enraged. Volunteer to study under Dequilline. He thought it didn't matter whether Sylvia had a crush on Dequilline and yearned and cherished any feelings for him. It would be just a fleeting fever for her that would pass by and disappear once she had matured. However, she was an Iliad before she was Sylvia. Their family should never fall under the Eucline. Ha! Glython chuckled. He was trying to make her see and hear only the good things. The conflict between families. War. A wizard's life. He thought it was too early for her to see that cold and cruel world. Ha-ha-ha. But it seemed the time had come. He couldn't just watch this unfold. The child of a lion serving under a mere wolf would forever remain a disgrace and dishonor to their family. The time had come to let Sylvia know about the intertwined and tough chain of bad ties in which each of them hated the other. Glython was now ready to take off his mask. Chapter 80. Drip, drip, drip. A midsummer shower poured outside the restaurant where Ephraim, depressed, nibbled on her food. Why does life sometimes go awry like this? I can't go back in time to fix this. If despair comes, one would think the hope to overcome it would swiftly follow afterward, but reality is never that easy. There can never be enough compensation for this much melancholy. She twirled her chopsticks around her food and eventually dropped them on the table. Teardrops were welling in her eyes. What's wrong? Isn't it delicious? Sylvia's maids, Leet and Indel, were flustered. The steak was delicious enough for them. She only likes a certain pig. Sylvia ate her meal nonchalantly. It didn't matter to her whether it was rice balls, fried rice, pigs, or cows. Why did it have to be today? Ephraim murmured, her misery caused by the pig's flowerous decision to not open today. She thought about the reason behind it as hard as she possibly could, but nevertheless couldn't figure it out. In the end, she decided to ask Julia about it later. Stupid Ephraim. Sylvia stood up. Her lips curved upward, finding the evening quite satisfying. She didn't have the strength to respond. One of the three maids left the shop with Sylvia and the other two remained behind. They sat and talked to Ephraim, who looked exhausted. This is a first. What? My lady's never brought a friend over before since her mother passed away. Ah. Ephraim smiled bitterly. The truth was, Sylvia was so famous that most information about her and her family was public. Hence, people from the tower and even ordinary undergraduate students at the university knew that Sylvia's mother had passed away. Such was the problem that accompanied fame. So you don't know how happy I was when Miss Ephraim came. You even willingly went all the way to the mansion. Ahaha, it was indeed voluntary, but she was actually just hanging around its vicinity when she was dragged inside because she looked conspicuous. After that, the attendants treated her so well that she even took a shower without realizing it. No, really, this is the first time. Everyone finds the lady difficult to handle, but she even twisted your nose. That's never happened before. Is that so? Of course, Tilda, that's why we were wondering if you could continue being friends with Lady Sylvia in the future as well. It was hard for Ephraim to answer that request. They weren't aware of it. But the relationship between Iliad and Luna couldn't even be considered good. Can't you? What? No, we should get along well, of course. Grinning, Ephraim picked up her fork and knife and started eating the steak again. Sylvia came back home before the evening grew too deep since she had a lot to prepare. Dequilline's test was already next Friday, after all. There was also her application, which she deemed in need of revisions. Daughter. However, in the middle of the mansion's unlit living room, an unexpected guest was waiting for her, Glython. Oh, my lord, when did you? Leet, go outside. It was a rather cold atmosphere. Even the air itself felt heavy. Ah, okay, I understand. Leet was worried but soon went outside, leaving the young lady behind. Sylvia approached him and tilted her head. What's the problem? Glython tapped the application form on the desk silently, causing Sylvia's eyes to widen. "Why did you look at it without my consent?" She rushed to take it, but her hard-faced father blocked her. "Are you really thinking of applying to be under Deculine's command?" "Yes, only for 6 months." Glython clenched his jaw as he stared at his younger daughter, who looked exactly like his deceased wife. "Sylvia, I had hoped you would grow up only listening and seeing the good of the world, unlike me." His gaze moved to his wife's picture frame at the corner of the living room. She passed away a long time ago, but Sierra's smile remained radiant in the photo. The conflict between the magic families, the providence of the cold-blooded beasts known as wizards. "I thought it was too early for you to learn of such a world." Glython's expression slowly collapsed. He wasn't acting. Even though he sometimes did, he couldn't suppress the emotions currently flaring up within him. "What do you mean? Do you know about the history between the Euclines and the Iliades, Sylvia? Do you know of our ill-fated relationship with them?" She didn't answer. Having taken off his usual mask, he became unfamiliar, which scared her. He thoughtlessly stared at her as she took a step back. Sierra. The name of her mother, the person she loved the most in the world, caused her shoulders to faintly tremble. She was a beautiful woman and a good mother. I was undeserving of her. He stood up and approached her. Grabbing her shoulders to prevent her from running away, he looked into her eyes. "Listen carefully, Sylvia." Though he looked like he was chewing something, he continued speaking clearly. "Your mother was killed by the Eucline." Her eyes widened slowly, her father's fury forming on her growing pupils. At that moment, her world felt as if it was moving away from her, abandoning her. Sylvia couldn't hear anything but the fearful beating of her heart. Glython no longer seemed like himself. Rather, he looked more like a raging flame. Deculine killed Sierra. Those words brought her back to her senses, reminding her she was no longer a child. She shouldn't be paralyzed by fear. "Our families have that kind of relationship. You should know that, liar." He stopped talking, realizing there was already some faith inside Sylvia's mind. She pushed away his hand that grabbed her, causing his expression to distort. I know the reason why Mom left her hometown." "What? Mom hated Dad?" "Sylvia. But Dad lied then, too." Glython smiled hopelessly. Deculine's face came up in his mind, looking like he was the only noble of any importance as he looked down on the world itself. And the Eucline before Deculine, that fucking cunning serpent. Their whole family incited his fury. "I'll ask him myself." Her tone was gelid. "He can't claim my words to be false." He looked at Sylvia, who grew suspicious of him. She stared at her own father like something was wrong with him, like Sierra did before. "After you've asked him yourself, you'd know how stupid you've been." He tore Sylvia's application apart as he roared. Up until now, he had never shown this side of his to his child. Shocked, Sylvia bit her lips. "Once you feel it in your heart, you'll know." He then left the mansion, opening the front door, seemingly with the intention of breaking it. The restless servants outside could only bow to him. Glython ignored them and went straight to his car. "It'll be all right." A small voice flowed in from a crystal ball in his possession. Breathing deeply, he replied, "I let my guard down. No matter how peaceful the times are, I should have honed her character harshly. Isn't that too cruel an education, brother? She's still a child. It would be difficult for her." Ha, he thought about his past. At only 7 years old, he almost became a tiger's meal, and when he was 13, he was coerced to kill his best friend. At 20, he went to war and lost his mother. If you can't overcome that much, you're not an Iliade. Glython didn't blame his fate. Instead, he considered hardship and suffering were the Iliade's essence. Their ambition was a rage that engulfed their entire lives like firewood incinerated by hellfire. "You don't have to worry. Sylvia won't disappoint me. Even if she makes a mistake once, she'd eventually soar again." Just like that, the anger in Glython's eyes slowly subsided. Friday, early morning. Kuuung Tilda. Yawning, Epheren went out of the dormitory. She had now completed most of her exams, including mandatory subjects such as Destruction Series Utilization and Assistance Series Transition, and even liberal arts subjects such as the History of the Empire and Pursuit of a Crime. As far as she knew, she perfected all of them. The only one left was Deculine's understanding pure elements. It's the most important of them all. The final exam for a 5-credit class. She couldn't even put the value of it into words. I shouldn't screw this one up. Even if I get a plus on 3 other tests, it wouldn't be enough to cover up for such a demerit. For the Solda exam and the professor's recommendation, I have to at least get 2nd place. Solidifying her determination, she saw yellow hair in the distance. No, yellow felt lackluster and insufficient to describe its elegance. Sylvia's hair was that special. Its sparkle was a mixture between pure gold and sunlight, its luster flowing naturally like a waterfall. The Iliad's blonde hair, one of their symbols, was the most beautiful in the world. Men and women of all ages envied them for it. Sylvia, Ephraim called her name as she approached her. Sylvia flinched, her face showing her usual disdain. Today, what's wrong with your face? Sylvia's current look startled her. She was haggard. Dark circles enveloped her eyes and her cheeks were hollow. Did you do poorly on the exams? No, it's not that. You got a perfect score on everything. The rumors are already going around. She silently brushed past the dubious Ephraim, but she continued to tail her. 40th floor, right? They rode the elevator together, with Ephraim pressing the button for the 40th floor. Even then, she didn't say anything. Are you ignoring me? This upsets me. You're not even going to say, arrogant Ephraim. She pouted in disappointment. Every 10th floor of the tower was known as special floors. They were normally off-limits to debutantes. Among them, the 40th floor was an artificially made natural landscape called locale forest. Ding! The door of the elevator opened, the scene catching them by surprise. Before them was a forest that stretched as far as they could see. Its vegetation gave off a fresh color, and the broad sunlight shone down on it brilliantly. Wow, so this is a special floor. The two stepped inside the forest. After some walking, they could see the debutantes. Among them were nobles like Lucia, Beck, and Jupern, and the members of the Commoners' Club. Iffy, Julia, Ephraim ran and hugged her subconsciously. The nobles stared at them, but they paid them no mind. You discovered it too, Julia? Yeah, I barely did, though. It took me about 2 weeks, I think. As they exchanged conversations, Ephraim glanced at Sylvia. She looked like nobody in this space interested her. Nice to meet you. Startled by the familiar voice, the debutantes straightened their postures. On top of the forest's hill, Deculine looked down at them. Congratulations to the 117 debutantes here for finding the examination ground. Sylvia's vacant gaze on him caused Ephraim to shake her head with a bitter smile. The theme of today's test is the fusion of theory and intuition. That theme was difficult no matter what angle they looked at it. The wizards swiftly became nervous, but they maintained their focus. I've said this before, and I'll repeat it as many times as I have to. Without theory, intuition wavers, and without intuition, theory is just an empty shell. Deculine cast ductility, creating a luxurious chair out of a mixture of soil and wood. His magic never ceased to amaze their beholders, no matter how many times they witnessed it. In this forest, magical disasters capable of making your theoretical and intuitive skills tremble will occur from time to time. Your goal is to complete your tasks without wavering. Alan! Deculine sat on a chair after providing instructions, at which point his assistant professor appeared. He was smiling as always, but he somehow looked exhausted. Okay, everyone, take your test papers, 1. Manifest and seal the 3 spells recorded below by order. 2. Gather and seal the 8 attributes of pure elements. 3. Describe the mana phenomenon that you have observed in the locale forest. 4. Interpret and manifest the following mana catastrophe. 5. Demonstrate the reactivity of the following pure elements in this place. A total of 5 questions. Ephraim sighed as soon as she saw it. The other wizards reacted no differently from her. However, mental management was more essential at times like this. What she found difficult was also difficult for others. She needed to adhere to that mindset now more than ever. Some magic may need materials to manifest, but you can get all of the requirements here. Be careful, however. The locale forest is a special floor. They're labeled as such due to the dangers they possess. What about the time limit for the test? Ephraim asked. Achuo. Alan sneezed once before answering. Excuse me. Anyway, there's no time limit. Moreover, if danger arises, ask head Professor de Culleen for help Tilda. He then hopped up the hill, spread a piece of cloth beside de Culleen, and modestly sat down on it. Professor, Tilda, would you like a cup of tea? Ephraim heard a somewhat tiny voice asking. Sylvia, sitting by the riverbank, glanced at the head professor on top of the hill. He was reading a book, as always. De Culleen killed Sierra. Glython's words played back in her ears endlessly. Every time she looked at de Culleen, her father's rage-filled expression overlapped with his image. Sylvia shook her head. A lie. I'm sure it's a lie. Sylvia repeated that line in her head over and over again. Perhaps the Iliad's and Eucline's bad relationship was true, but the rest had to be a lie. Her father always exaggerated and fooled her anyway. Test. Focusing on the test, she crouched down and looked at the questions. Tack. A cold pain soon hit her head, however. Applying pressure to the painful section on her head, she looked up. Finding hail pouring from the sky, she quickly built a tent to counter it. 1. Manifest and seal the 3 spells recorded below by order. She began to solve the first problem earnestly, manifest and seal the 3 spells. It wasn't difficult. However, I'll ask him myself. He can't claim my words to be false. My head hurts. Sylvia tearfully murmured as she caressed her head. Her conversation with her father refused to go away. De Culleen, her muse, was within her sights, albeit standing afar. The one she yearned for, perhaps even liked. Her father told her he killed her mother. Why? That's right. You got a perfect score this time again, Sylvia. Sylvia nodded despite her troublesome thoughts, deciding to ask him after hearing those words from him at the end of the test. At that point, she thought he would definitely say it was a lie, allowing her to tell Glython that there was a misunderstanding. I can do this. Making up her mind, she resumed answering the first problem. It was too easy for someone of Sylvia's caliber, but only 5 minutes later she realized that she missed a crucial point. 1. Manifest and seal the 3 spells recorded below by order. Contrary to the instruction, Sylvia fused the 3 spells. Ironically, that mistake was due to her talent and Mana being too brilliant. The reaction of 3 mid-scale magic being merged abruptly was obvious. No, Her spell, a combination of the wind and water elements, released a powerful and magical water torrent that immediately swept her away, giving her no time to escape.